actually help them. We need to zero in on that. And one of the, I guess, the top I guess, tips that I have is, are you thinking like a recruiter? Okay. You want to be able to think and use the lens that recruiters use in order to find you. And I'll give you a case in point, and this isn't probably even on the screen, but for instance, some of you have headlines that say very kind of cute things like that I am a guru, for instance, or I'm a maven, but these aren't jobs, these aren't keywords rather that recruiters typically are looking at when they're looking and doing a Boolean string, which is a series of words that are connected by either an and statement or an or statement. And I'll be showing you those at some point in this presentation. But if you get too cute, prime real estate on LinkedIn, there are several spots on LinkedIn that are called hotspots. And those are the spots in which putting your words or keywords in those areas actually weigh more heavily in the LinkedIn algorithms, which drive whether or not you're even seen, whether you emerge in the search when a recruiter is looking for you or a hiring manager is looking for you. So your headline, for example, is a hotspot. All of your titles, whether they're past titles or current titles, those are hotspots. So what that means is, if you put certain keywords in your headline, they will be more apt. You will come up higher in search engines. You'll come up in more search results than you would have if you didn't put those. So really pay close attention to what you're putting in your LinkedIn headline. And some folks think because the default is your current or your last job, that that's what needs to be in the headline. And that's not true. You can click on the little pencil in the right-hand side, and you'll probably see screens about that. And you can change your headline to whatever keywords make sense for the job that you are aiming for, job or jobs. I know in some cases you guys are aiming for more than one job. So let's just dig into the content. I might go a little bit out of order, but hopefully we'll cover enough key terms and key concepts that you guys will grab onto some. Hopefully you'll have a pen and paper, you're typing, and you'll take some notes that you can put to use tonight or tomorrow. You get ambitious tonight, otherwise tomorrow. That might help you. And you might only need a couple of these ideas in order to get the attention of hiring managers and or recruiters. So going back to a recruiter's lens, what is it that recruiters are looking for? And do you know what that is? And if you do know what that is, does your LinkedIn profile, does your even resume, whatever it is that you're putting out there, does that resonate to the market that's looking for someone with your skills? So the first is, do you know what it'll take to land your next job, right? If you're not sure, you've got some homework to do. And a really good way to do that, because I know we've got a lot of tech savvy people on this call, but a really great way to do that is by using these cloud-based technologies that basically visualize keywords. And when a keyword occurs more than once on a page, for those who don't know what this is, so for instance, if you go onto Indeed.com and you grab, let's just say that you're a marketing manager, and you grab 3 marketing manager roles from Indeed.com, and you go on to any one of these 3, and I've highlighted my favorite in yellow, any one of these cloud visualization technologies, and you put, I know the window looks really small, but if you put these 3 jobs in that window and then press visualize, you're going to see some words really large, and you're going to see words that are a little bit smaller and smaller and smaller yet. When they're huge, that means that the laws of supply and demand are at play, meaning that you have more of those words appearing across those 3 jobs than not, right? And as the words get smaller, that occurs less frequently. That's an indicator of what words, what keywords should be on your profile. So the question is, are you in sync with the jobs that you're aiming for and the keywords or the skills that are needed in order to do those jobs? So hopefully that's clear.
We have a question.
Sure.
Aiko asks, what are the things that can hurt? I know you just talked about the things that can help. I was advised that the things such as like content that we create can be used against us.
Content meaning like on Facebook or on other social media sites?
Or even on LinkedIn. Like, so for example, if you write something on the LinkedIn publisher, can that hurt you with recruiters? Or like if
Well,
you write a status update, could that hurt you? And what if those things go viral? You know, what do you do in that case?
yeah, wow, that's a lot of questions and very good ones actually at that. So, anything that you put out on the internet, whether it's LinkedIn, a professional platform, or on a social media site like Facebook or Instagram or one of these others, anything you've got to realize once you put it out there, the horses of Thor can't bring those words back. So the first thing is what will hurt you are basically, I'll just tell you an easy answer is typos. Oddly enough, recruiters and hiring managers have a very low tolerance for typos. Something as simple as that. Forget the content that you might have put something controversial. Something that is of a political nature, that might hurt you if you have a diehard, for instance, Republican person. Unfortunately, biases are alive and well, right? So you might have somebody who's a hiring manager who might have biases that are strong in that way, or strong, from a Democratic or something somewhere in between, right? So I would recommend not putting anything political at all, or certainly softening it by using a balanced viewpoint if you feel that compelled to put some kind of an article that talks about, either side of the aisle or both sides of the aisle. That's what
And
I
what
would.
if you have a professional website too? So some of us
Yeah.
have websites where we have our portfolios. What about those
Mhm.
situations?
That can really help. And I'll tell you, it's one of the points that I'll probably make, but since we're on the topic, I'll make it now. So a lot of you guys, uh, you don't have any contact information, which I can fully understand. And I'm going to give you some suggestions on how to handle that. But if you have a professional, either blog, website, WordPress or anything else, and you put that either in your about section, which used to be called your summary section, or you put it under your contact information, that can actually help you, because recruiters like me, let's just say I run out of in-mails, which are those, I guess, messages, professional messages that recruiters and others can send. We pay for them, part of our subscription. But if we run out, and you have your website or your blog on there, I just simply go up there and I click on your contact us button, and I'm communicating to you through your blog, and then you know that I'm interested in your background. So that can actually help you. As far as the content, I know we've got the freedom of speech and the press, etc. But when you're in job seeker mode, sometimes if you're putting something out that's really ultra controversial, you may want to suppress it. It's advice that I typically don't give to folks, but I can't. The answer is it depends, really. When you say, can something hurt you? The answer is it depends on who is reading it. We're all different. We all have different interpretations. So you try and stay as neutral as you can, especially when you're in job seeker mode, on your blogs and on your website. That's what I would suggest. Don't say anything that's too controversial. Certainly nothing that's contentious, that's going to create problems with other people who might render their opinion and exacerbate a situation. I see that a lot on Facebook. I don't know if that answers the question. Hopefully it does. Try and stay as neutral as possible, especially when you're in job seeker mode, or suppress it if you can, or wait a week or 2 weeks or until you land in order to, I guess, weigh in on something that's really controversial. The other school of thought is you are who you are, and some people may feel this is who I am and this is who they're getting. You're just taking, that's just a risk that you kind of come to terms that you're willing to take. Okay, so that's my 2 cents. Other people may feel differently, but that's sort of my 2 cents on the topic.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You bet. Other questions about word clouds, so you get an idea of across different jobs, pretty much the laws of supply and demand. What skills, abilities, knowledge are recruiters seeking in today's job seekers? So you get an idea by using word clouds and visualizing those words. And certainly if you can own those words, be sure that they're in your LinkedIn profile, be sure that they're in your resume, because applicant tracking systems are certainly in some cases counting those words, depending upon how the employer has coded the applicant tracking system that they're using. Some actually do rank order different resumes. Most resumes are actually viewed visually anyway on applicant tracking systems, but some actually are rank ordering them, your resumes. Okay, So assuming that, I'll just keep going until more questions come, and feel free to keep asking questions. I'll give you my opinion, the world according to Marissa. So just bear in mind, it's just one person's opinion. You can ask 10 recruiters and or career coaches, of which I am one as well. And we may have a different opinion, but hopefully you'll get an idea of just generally how this recruiter anyway interprets things when I see them. Okay. So once you know what it takes to get a job, what the keywords are, what the knowledge, skills, and experience are, make sure you prove it in an obvious way. Make sure it's articulated on your resume or your LinkedIn profile. I see a lot of job seekers strictly just putting keywords up at the top, and then there's no proof points below it under the professional experience at the bottom, nor on their LinkedIn profile. I see a lot of very sparse LinkedIn profiles that just have your name, your title, the dates, and not a whole lot else. So you're really losing some valuable real estate and opportunity to have a proof point. And what I mean by a proof point is don't just have the key words. Talk about what you did, and some people might know it as a CAR or a SAR or a STAR, a situation, task, action, result. That's a STAR. Or a CAR, a challenge, action, result. Basically, these are stories, beginning, middle, and an end of a story. So when you think about it, when someone says, tell me about a time when you exhibited, this type of a skill, when you researched something, or when you ran into an issue, and how did you get through that issue? They're asking you for a story where it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And the middle of the story are all of the actions, different things that you thought to do in order to attack that particular skill, that particular activity rather. And then there's a result, hopefully a good result at the end of that, maybe more than one result sometimes. It could be serendipitous. You might have, maybe the intent of doing a particular project was to save money, for example. But in addition to saving money, you realize you could take some steps out of the process, and that made all of the people who were engaging in that activity happier, because for years they've been wondering why they were engaging in 2 or 3 tasks that weren't even needed and didn't add any value. So you could be adding to people's job satisfaction, to their productivity by removing steps. And that might have been something that was an unplanned result. So CARs are very important. Challenge, action, results. And when you're in an interview, a lot of times you're going to be asked behavioral questions, and they're asking for a beginning of the story, the middle of the story, and the end of the story, which is often called a CAR or a SAR or a STAR.
Wonderful. We have 2 questions off of that.
Sure.
Saldi asks, do the results need to be number oriented?
No, not necessarily. I mean, the bottom line, if you really think about it, is that most things boil down to money, either to saving money, to making money. Most things generally do. If you're in a sales role, it's much easier, for instance, to articulate that you closed 4 accounts that equaled X amount, and that might be the value to that company, either on a one-off basis or on an annual basis or an ongoing basis. It's not always as easy if you're for instance, an HR person, right? Of which I was one for 12 years, right? So we had a lot of huge morale issues. We laid off 1,700 people my first week at a particular bank. I felt like the Terminator. It was just awful. But in order to sort of recover from that, I put together a lot of programs that, were meant to bring those folks who, survived and make it a happier place for them. So I had a volunteer activities committee. We had picnics, we had movie theater tickets that were way discounted, and lots of different interesting things going on. And that kind of helped morale a little bit, and it got people focused. And I also put other programs in place. Now, how do you quantify that? Because did it save money? Did it make money? Well, it got people happier and it got them more productive. We saw a huge decline in absenteeism. And we saw an increase in productivity. How much, I didn't particularly measure. So when you don't know that number, you can approximate the number. You can say it was between this and this for a range, a percentage range. Or you can call a friend, like phone a friend and say, hey, well, we were over at that bank, and we put these programs together. We thought that they would save this amount of money or make this amount of money. What approximately would you say it accomplished? And they're going to be your reference anyway. So as long as when they're called, they're going to say the same thing, now you have a number to put. Plus, the person that you called also knows that you're looking for a job. So now you have a bit of a brand ambassador, eyes and ears looking for you, you know, for a job that particular week or for the next month or so, because they know that you're looking for a job. Plus, they're a built-in reference check. So that would be my answer to that question.
Wonderful.
You said there were two?
Yep. Our other question is, other than on LinkedIn, what constitutes the hidden job market? Do you think LinkedIn is the best angle for discovering that type of job market? What is the non-hidden job market or opposite of it?
Well, there are lots of hidden job markets, as I said. So for instance, I mentioned to Albert earlier that I was on the phone with Indeed today, and I was asking them, what are you doing to help job seekers out in COVID? You know, this environment where it's just so incredibly difficult, and there's so many people in the market. How do people, they're vying for attention? And they said anyone on Indeed.com who has a resume should be clicking on the Ready to Work button as an example, and Ready to Work. So I said, well, how is that helping? Because I see as a recruiter Ready to Work and it turns green. It certainly gets my attention because almost everything is just black type on LinkedIn. So I see something green, it attracts me. And it also says free to contact. So I was thinking free to contact are the job seekers paying Indeed something? No, it's just something that Indeed is doing. So those of you who are hearing this right now, who have a LinkedIn resume an Indeed resume, go ahead and go back into Indeed and click on Ready to Work, and immediately you'll be free to contact, meaning if a recruiter likes what they see in your resume, your online resume, there's no excuse for them not to just click the button and contact you. Even if they're out of credits, they can still contact you. So that's just one example of the hidden job market. We'll get into more as we kind of get beyond the first couple of screens. So
yep, we have another question before we move on.
Sure.
This one, how do we distinguish the content in our cover letter from the specific proof stories included in our resume without being redundant?
Yeah,
I think that's an interesting one.
That's a really good question because a lot of people simply repeat it. I'll tell you, the cover letter, you guys aren't going to want to hear this, but you probably know it anyway. Statistically speaking, cover letters are read by less than 30%. So the most recent survey I saw was 29%. So some people say, well, if it's only read by 29% of recruiters or hiring managers, why should I even bother? Which would also be a good question. But so here's the thing. Sometimes you can tell your stories, or you should be able to tell your story. You're more familiar with your background than, say, a recruiter who saw your resume once or saw your LinkedIn profile. You can tell your story better. A lot of times you have recruiters who are green, not accustomed to looking at resumes, may not even fully understand the job. And what happens is when they read your cover letter, they take what you've written, why you think you're qualified, they take that and they give it to the hiring manager as an argument. I'll just call it an argument, loosely worded, as a reason, a compelling reason for why that hiring manager should in fact see you, or at least interview you by phone or by Zoom or some other video technology. So you are helping yourself by writing a cover letter. Now, is it redundant? You should try not to make it redundant. So for instance, if you're a salesperson and time again, you hit your quota. So instead of saying, I hit my quota, I hit my quota, I hit my quota, in all the jobs that you hit your quota, or in every year in which you hit your quota, even within the same employer, you can just say consistently, reach or exceed my quota between this and this. My quota is between 100 and 122% as an example. That's what I call a roll-up bullet. You're rolling up many of the similar achievements into one bullet. That's different than what you would have on your resume, where under each job you are actually line listing that you landed one of the biggest accounts in the company's history, which brought in $50,000 or whatever the amount is. It's different because you're line listing on your resume. So when you can, I would cluster similar skills where you've achieved things like, for instance, if you managed people, have managed employees, direct hires, and or volunteers, if you have managed volunteers, between this amount and that amount in 3 different jobs. That's a bullet you can put on your cover letter.
Wonderful.
And
We have one more question before we
okay.
go forward.
All right.
I know you're answering a lot of questions, and we would definitely want to.
That's
oh
okay.
My goodness, we got 2 questions. Oh my, they're just coming in.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad.
One of them is the ready to work button on Indeed the same idea as setting the available for job opportunities option on LinkedIn?
Yeah. So LinkedIn recently, I've been on the phone with them too. So they recently changed, you've got that, it's called a photo frame, right?
Yeah.
You're able to either let recruiters only who have recruiter accounts on LinkedIn know that you're open to a job. You can select on right under your photo on LinkedIn. And I think I have a picture of that too. You'll see it. Well, I guess we'll go over it now. But under your photo, you have the option of saying, there's a little pencil, which is how you edit your profile on LinkedIn. The pencil closest to underneath your photo and your title, your headline. And you can say, I'm open to work. And here you can choose any amount up to 5 different titles and up to 5 different geographies. The next choice you need to make is, who do I want to know this? And you either choose recruiters who have accounts, paid accounts on LinkedIn, or you choose everyone. My understanding is they've changed it now, so the minute you check everyone, you get a green sash under your name, right? You get a circle with a green sash. That pretty much, you have to be comatose not to see that somebody is open to a new job, right?
And do you recommend that job seekers use that feature, or does it make them look desperate? Or
yes, yes and no. I don't recommend that that those who are in a management or above executives use that. It's more acceptable for job seekers, but it's sort of a personal decision, because only you really know your financial runway, meaning how much money you have left over, and when you absolutely need to have a job. So what some people do is they just show it to recruiters maybe the first few weeks, but as they're getting closer to that runway, they turn on the green circle, right? That everyone now can see it.
Yeah.
But I've got better ideas than that, that we'll see in some of the slides, that are ways to show recruiters that you're open to a job without being quite so, as you said, Albert, coming across potentially desperate. Because we don't want that, because that's going to affect your ability to potentially negotiate a better salary.
Or interview, for that fact, because if you answer questions with a certain way that's like, well, I want to work here because I have bills to pay, which, I mean, honestly is an honest thing to say, but hiring managers don't want to hear that for other reasons.
No, that is not a compelling. You are what we call a flight risk, because you might be still continuing to look for jobs, and the next better job that comes along is the one you're going to take. So
we got one more question that I'm going to just ask you, and then hopefully we can move on. But however, that said, I think Marissa enjoys answering questions.
I love it.
So for those of you, we'll keep answering them, and the longer you stay too, you'll probably get even more information. So we hope you're taking notes. The question is, nowadays, what is the average age of a recruiter? I'm trying to re-enter the job market after a gap, and I'm trying to get an idea of what or whom I may be dealing with ahead. Thank you.
The average age of a recruiter, of any recruiter?
I guess, yeah.
I have no idea what that is, but I'll be honest with you. There's very, very few things I'm stumped about, but I will tell you, I'm in various recruiter groups. It really runs the gamut. It does. We've got some young, green folks who just got out of college, as an example, who may or may not choose to remain. Not a lot of folks, who say got a degree in, particular in marketing, let's just say, are meant to be recruiters. Just as an example, I was a marketer for 15 years, and my attitude is, whether I am connecting the right product or service with the right customer, or the right employee or potential employee candidate with a company, I'm still making matches. To me, marketing was very much like recruiting, really. So it was natural that I kind of gone back and forth from HR work to marketing and now back to one aspect of HR work, which is recruiting. But I don't know that there's an average age. I would tell you the two groups that I'm in, the average in those two groups is somewhere between, I would say, 35 and 45, maybe even 50. That is what I would say. But there are many young recruiters coming up who are, excited about the prospect of helping people, changing lives, and making matches and making good matches. So I don't really have a good answer to that, but based on what my experience is, that's my answer in the two groups that I'm in, which have a lot of recruiters. One of them has over 1,400 recruiters in it.
Awesome.
Okay. One other question, or are we done with that?
No other questions. Keep going.
Okay, good. All right. So, so make sure somebody asked about cover letters. I believe in what I call kitchen sink cover letters. So I recommend to my coaching clients that rather than reinvent the wheel every single time they see a job that they want to apply to, which I know when I was applying for jobs, I'd get excited to see the job that wow, this looks like an awesome job. And then I'd go, ugh, I got to write a cover letter. Rather than reinvent the wheel every time, I have what I call a kitchen sink cover letter. And what that is I start with the first job that I applied to. I just grab something that I really want to and intend to apply to, and I highlight either by computer, like yellow highlight, or with a highlighter, the skills, knowledge, and abilities. What is it that they want? What are the deliverables? What skills, knowledge, and abilities do they want? I highlight those and I put those in the left-hand margin in bold. That's my, that's my compass, if you will, because that's what an employer is asking. These are the skills that they're asking for. Or you can put them in a word cloud, the very first bullet that I addressed here on this slide, and get an idea of what those are. Now it's time to say, here's what you asked for. This is your requirement. Here's how I meet it. So right alongside each one, you're putting how you meet it. That takes care of job number one that you applied to. Great. Now you save it as a template, as a kitchen sink template. Now, tomorrow you have another job that you want to apply to. You grab that one. If it's the same type of a job, you're going to see some of the same skills. Great. You have that already on your kitchen sink letter. But all of a sudden, you're seeing some new things. Now they want research skills or, advertising agency or PR skills. Now you put those on the left-hand side in bold and you develop an answer or response to that. So it's growing with each job that you're applying to. Mine, I'll be honest with you, back when I was a marketing director, manager, vice president, I think it's 3 pages. Do I send 3 pages to an employer? No way. What I do is I pull out if I was applying today for a marketing role, I pull out my kitchen sink cover letter. I look at the job that I'm applying to, highlight the words, and then I compare it to my kitchen sink letter, and it's a deletion. I just delete. The letter snaps shut to a very small amount. It looks like I spent hours on it. I haven't. It's perfectly aligned with what the employer and has the keywords that the employer is looking for. And the statistics of you getting up at bat are so much more likely. And it's a great way to do it. Also, theoretically, it's proofread. If it's your kitchen sink, you've done a spell check. So you don't need to do that. So the only thing you really need to do is change the date at the top, the title, possibly. And if there's something about that company that, for instance, I once applied to Kashi. I don't know if you guys know that brand, the bars and the healthy food. And I was buying their product for 6 years. So I said, I've long wanted to work for Kashi. I buy your XYZ products. So it was something that I could say in the first paragraph to establish some kind of rapport, credibility, and connection. So that's what I did in my first paragraph. That's one of the few times that I ever change anything about the letter. But kitchen sink letters are really helpful. Okay, so hopefully that's a good tip for you guys. Polish your LinkedIn profile. We'll talk about that. Make sure the keywords, and if you have to, look at somebody else's profile who has the exact same title. 2 or 3 other profiles, see what their keywords are, see what they're using. Does it mean that they're right? No, but it will trigger you to say, wait a minute, I completely forgot these 5 skills. So it'll help you to build your endorsement section and your summary section, and even might give you words that you might want to put in your headline, which again is one of the most important areas on LinkedIn. It is the most important hotspot driving the algorithms on LinkedIn that help you to get to the top of the search stack when recruiters are looking for people like you. So something that drives me crazy, I shouldn't have skipped it, but are you accessible to recruiters? And we're going to cover this. So there's nothing that drives me more crazy as a recruiter, especially at 2 or 3 in the morning when I'm looking for some of you guys, is I find you and you've got exactly what I want, but unfortunately I'm out of emails and I don't know how to connect with you. So you don't give me anything, any way to connect with you. And let's say earlier I mentioned if you have a blog or if you have a personal website, I immediately go under your contact button and see if you've listed that. Make sure you list it if you have it, right? So I can write to you through your contact us button and nobody knows other than you because it's your personal website or your personal blog. I'm going to give you some ideas in some of these screens that follow on how it is that you can be more accessible so you increase the likelihood of recruiters reaching out to you right then. Because some recruiters are emailers and some of us are texters and some of us are callers, especially some of the over 50s we call, okay? Because that's the old way of doing it. We only had the phone. We didn't have text and we didn't have emails. So make sure this slide, make sure you're looking at the job through a recruiter's lens, right? What are we looking for? What keywords? What skills, knowledge, and experience? And make sure it's on your LinkedIn profile as well as on your resume, okay? And if there are others that can put in a good word for you with their companies, it's always great to get somebody on the inside. Networking is by far the #1 way to get a job inside of a company, even if it's somebody that you meet on this phone call and link in with them and then write to them, okay? Because maybe they're at a company that you are interested in joining, or maybe they used to be at a company. If they're still at the company, maybe they get a referral fee for referring you. There's an additional incentive to them carrying your flag for you, meaning running your resume to HR, okay, or getting it over to the hiring manager if they're still there and their company pays a referral fee. That is another hidden job market little secret. So if they're still there, see if they have a referral program. That might be an additional incentive. Having a good elevator pitch. Talk about a hidden job market. How many times has someone asks you, well, what are you looking for? And you know, you're sort of stuck. You don't want to be stuck. You want to have a very clear, crisp, concise, here's what I do, here's what I'm really good at, here's what I want to do next. Here are the top 3 companies or 5 companies, 3 to 5 companies that I'm targeting, I'd love to work for. Let them hear that enthusiasm. And here's the geography. I'm willing, I don't know, we've got folks on the line in San Francisco and other parts of California and elsewhere in the United States and who knows beyond. Make sure they're clear. I only want to work remotely. Somebody I spoke to yesterday, I got used to working remotely. I'm only interested in working remotely. Make sure that that's clear in your elevator pitch. Okay? Okay, let's keep going. So yeah, here's another thing. Did you follow the application instructions? A lot of people are bypassing the application. I know these applicant tracking systems are, you know, they're the things you love to hate, mostly that you might hate, but they're organizing resumes. They are, you know, they're intended to screen you in, although some will screen you out, especially if they have a scoring system. For every job, some companies will say, in order to really qualify for this job, 15 of the words that we've chosen that are in the job description must show up on somebody's resume. Let's just say that they put a scoring. Most companies don't even get there. Too lazy.
That sounds really arbitrary. Do companies actually do that?
Yeah, they do. Some companies do it. So very few. Most companies, the good news is most companies will look at your resume, but you're only as good as either a person who's brand new, okay, to recruiting. Sometimes it's worse to have a person who's green, right? Looking at your resume, they don't understand the job. They don't understand the list of keywords that are needed or the skills that are needed for that job. So sometimes you're actually better off with the scoring or a company that does a combination of both. But the good news is most companies will actually look at your resume, and they can also transfer your resume between jobs. If you applied for one job and the person looking at it says they're not really that qualified for this job, but they're qualified for something else in the system, they can shoot your resume over to a different recruiter through the system, and you'll exist in two places instead of just one. A lot of people don't know that. There are many different kinds of ATS systems, and while we're on the subject of this, and it's probably on one of the screens we'll see, is don't put any kind of notes in a table, any kind of keywords in a table. So those are like, they look like a spreadsheet. So vertical lines and horizontal lines, and a few people have told me, well, I erased the grid lines. You know, it says don't show grid lines. It's still it's kind of like a leopard. You paint a leopard white on top of it. Underneath of it, it's still a leopard. So the problem with using tables is that most applicant tracking systems, of which there are 273 applicant tracking systems currently on the market. Now, they fall into three major buckets. Some of them are so antiquated, usually used by hospitals and educational institutions. I would say about 5 to 7%, maybe as much as 10%, is that they can't even read a header. So you guys know what a header is. It's at the top of your document. You click twice, you type maybe your name and address in it, and then once you click out of it, it turns gray. It's a little bit lighter. I wouldn't recommend putting your information in a header because some of these old systems cannot, the algorithms or the robots that come up can't even penetrate a header, which is crazy to me, but that's the old system. Then there's something that the majority of these 273 fall into they can read a header. Awesome. But they cannot read a table. They cannot read a text box. Some people put frames around their resumes. These robots come up and they go, they can't penetrate, you know, the frame. So I wouldn't get too fancy, especially some of the resumes that I see. They have the address at the bottom. They have your name on the side, especially the one-page ones that are really graphically gorgeous. Put the ugly one in the beginning when you're applying for a job so that it can be read. And then at the end of the applicant tracking process where it says, do you have anything else to upload? That's where you put the pretty one, okay? Because that's not the one that's being run through the applicant tracking system. And that's also one that you can bring into an interview if you're invited in for an interview. Does that make sense to you guys? I'm hoping it does. Because those tables, the vertical lines and the horizontal lines form a rectangle, right, where the word exists. So you say that you are excellent at relationship building, and those robots come up and they can't get inside a cell. Just think about it like a jail cell. It's in jail. Your words, all of your keywords are in jail, and they can't be read and they can't be scored. Does that make sense? I'm hoping you guys are getting that. The third kind of applicant tracking system, hardly anybody uses. Fortune 50 companies, some of them. It's contextual. It's very scary. One of them out there is called, it's either called Broken Glass or something glass. Something glass. Anyway, it's contextual. So what it does is it reads all your keywords at the top, but if below it, there's no substantiation for those keywords. So for people who think, well, I'm just going to put all these keywords and I'll make it to the top of the stack. No, what it does is it looks below it. And if it doesn't see things in context, it will subtract points one at a time. So for instance, if you are into construction and sustainability, bamboo floors, things that can be recycled, and at the top you put that you're LEED certified, which is one of the designations that you might get. Below it, you better say something about green, sustainable, bamboo, something like that, because it will make the connection and it will keep your points. It also gives more credit to the last two jobs. So if you had the sustainability job and the last time you did that was 15 years ago, it's going to take off points because it was too long ago. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys as well. I mean, it may not make sense, but that's the way it is. Okay. Other questions, Albert, or should I keep going?
No questions, keep going. But for those of you who are on the line, if you do have questions, ask away.
Okay,
Yeah, go
I'm
for it.
gonna I'm gonna try and blow through some of these because I want them to see the visuals on some of the ways that they can help on LinkedIn and off LinkedIn to attract more roles and more recruiters and hiring managers.
Actually, a question just came through. So while you're here, what does it mean when a hiring manager from my dream company says, quote unquote, unfortunately, after careful consideration, we have decided to continue our search given that our current candidate pool aligns more closely with our current needs for this role. With that said, you have a strong background. We will certainly keep you in mind for future opportunities that may be a better fit. I really want to stay connected with this hiring manager and be respectful of space. Any advice on the next step? So
Yeah.
obviously we get a lot of those robotic responses. And I mean, for me, you know, in my past, I just hit archive or delete. But what if I actually still feel connected and still feel like I want to do something about it?
Here's a way to really do this and do it well, guys. So what I would do is, they've selected one of many templates in their applicant tracking system. Those are where those live, right? So it's called the TBNT, a thanks but no thanks. That's what it's called, a thanks but no thanks letter, right? Now, if you're wrong for the company, the culture, et cetera, you're going to get a different kind of letter. So in a way, it's good that you got that letter, right? Some recruiters actually do call you again. Okay, some companies have policies where they just keep harvesting and harvesting and reharvesting their databases. Case in point, I don't know if anybody's in San Diego. General Atomics has about 18 or so recruiters, maybe 25 recruiters by now. They are tasked with going into their database and finding people. So I know someone who applied to General Atomics across different buildings. There are like 6 different buildings in one section of San Diego. And he just kept getting no's. And he just said, I am so done. And he became a coaching client. The funny thing is somebody mined him or harvested him. So the 26th time, okay, and he didn't apply. 25 times he applied, but the 26th time he actually got the job. And it's because somebody found him in the applicant tracking system and thought his background was perfect. So what can you do? A couple of things. I don't know that I'd become pen pals with them necessarily. If you had a conversation with them and they mentioned different things about the company, things that were emerging within their portfolio of products or something like that, and you found an article about that, you can always use that as an excuse, attach a link and say, when we spoke, you indicated this was something you guys were looking at, and I thought this would be of interest, this article. In addition, just FYI, I'm still, pounding the proverbial pavement or whatever it is that you want to say. And I'm very much reiterating my interest. I'd still love if if a suitable job becomes open to be considered for it. And maybe you're hitting them at the exact right time. Also writing a thank you note. And if the thank you note is I know nobody's at their desk anymore right now, most people are home. But if it's something like there's a store called Successories that has gorgeous, visual mountains and very sharp, crisp photos of nature, people keep those on their desk, especially if you said something nice about them in the thank you. Thank you so much for all the time. You were so generous. I really appreciated that you said X, Y, and Z. I hope that you remember this about me. And you put that in the card. A lot of people, we don't get those anymore, right? So we'll keep those, especially if they're gorgeous, something nice to look at. We don't want to throw them out. That's sort of another little tip for you guys. But one of the best, more, I would say, realistic things that you can do, once that person says they'd like to keep the dialogue open or keep you in mind, certainly follow them on LinkedIn. Follow them. And then once you get that bell ringing at the top of your LinkedIn and you see that they posted something, an article or a regular post, or commented on something, comment as well, especially if they wrote something, curated an article or attached a link, said, I just read that article that you provided a link for. I found it incredibly interesting and here's why. And maybe they forgot you by that point, but they're going to look at you again. Chances are they're going to look at your profile again. And as soon as they do that, you might either comment again, ask them if you can link in, or just send them an invitation request. Remind them that you had applied for a job, that you remain interested in their company. And that's a way for you to connect.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
We have another question.
Sure.
Let's say you want to do a transition, but the recruiter insists you apply for a role you're trying to transition away from. What's the best way to approach this? For example, I was looking to move away from a customer-facing role, but after careful wording, it still shows off customer-facing to one degree or another.
Okay. Well, very few of us are islands. Some of us, coders, programmers, they get to work in quieter, more isolated, I will just say, environments, right? Especially now that we're home. But, you're dealing with somebody, whether it's customers or internal folks working across different divisions, especially on Zoom calls, right? So you're dealing with people. But if you feel that you need to take a break from a lot of the interaction with other people and you want to do something a little bit more solitary, I think you should stick by your guns, because you got to get out of bed every day and have a spring in your step. I'm not saying you got to do cartwheels, but you should feel good about getting out of bed. And you only live once, right? And you should be enjoying what it is that you're doing. Now, someone might be telling you you should be in customer service because it's a compliment. They think that you're really good at it. And that's wonderful. But what they think isn't as important as what you've got to live with every day, right? So you want to feel good about the job that you're doing and feeling that you're contributing to society and being productive and earning a living for things that you love to do. So keep an open mind, of course, but I would try and start gravitating towards the industry and use the template that I just gave you. What would a recruiter need to see in your background in order to consider you for a completely different role? And this is where you need to take an inventory, a little list of what are the things that I've done. Okay, and I think I have a verb list, if I'm not mistaken. I have a lot of free tools on my website that I put on there because of COVID, and there was some on even beforehand. Go onto my website, download all of the free tools on the free Job Seeker Tools page, and I think one of them is a verb list. And start taking an inventory of what have I done? What skills do I have? Remember those cars I was talking about before? Challenge, action, result. A lot of those are going to be actions. Check off the ones that you have, any kind of skill at, and then go back and put an L next to it. Like, I have the skill, but do I like doing it? Like, who likes filing? Very few people I know like filing. So maybe that's not one that you would want to feature right on your resume. It might be part of the job, maybe 2% or 5%. But let's just say I once had a friend who raised capital. And in San Diego, there's a lot of companies that are small to mid-cap companies where that's a great skill to have. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I could introduce her to a ton of companies. She put that at the very top of her resume, which is the most important real estate on your resume, is the top third of your resume. It's kind of like real estate. What's the most important 3 words? They say location, location, location. Same thing with your resume. That top section is what we read first, right? We're making decisions even before we get into your professional history. So it's important that you have keywords, that you have accomplishments and different things at the top that really showcase your skills. But what you shouldn't do is put just a brain dump of all of your skills on LinkedIn or on your resume, because be careful what you ask for. If you are calling attention to those words, we're going to see those words. And which words do you think we're going to hone in on? We're going to hone in on words that we need in order to fill that job, whether you want to do it or not. Now, what's going to happen when you're in an interview? Let's just say you're in a Zoom interview, and you're sitting there. Your posture for a job you really are going to be using skills that you don't want to use anymore might be like this, right? You might be slumped over, as opposed to energetic, sitting up, and anxious, and just incredibly. I use anxious in a positive way. I didn't mean it in a negative way, but really excited and happy to be there, and you're showing up. So you want to make sure that you're showcasing words that you like doing. And then the other thing you got to come to terms with, I have the skill. I like doing it. Am I good at it? Now, the good news is you can get better at most things. Go on YouTube, watch some videos, partner with a friend who's really great at it, get better at it. But you've got to decide in your own mind whether, if you're not that good at it yet, should you be showcasing it, right, at the top of your resume, or in your LinkedIn About section, or in your LinkedIn Skills and Endorsement section. You know, so that's something you're going to need to wrestle with. Does that answer the question, or did I go too far off topic?
I think you did. There's a follow-up question to that, which asks, I had a recruiter who said that I was quote unquote inauthentic. What exactly would they mean by that?
Wow. You know,
I
recruiter.
always feel like that crosses over a line where it's
That
like,
does. That does.
you know,
I had another recruiter told one of
it's
my,
very Silicon Valley tech bro culture sounding, in my
yeah,
opinion.
you know, look, we're not all meant to be outgoing and entertainers. I had a candidate, you know, she was a coaching client early on, 11 years ago. They told her she didn't have any pizzazz. You know, that's just, you know, to me, it's completely unacceptable. But in any event, so what are they saying? That you were inauthentic? They felt that you were putting on airs, that you weren't answering legitimately, that you weren't telling the truth. Um, you know, you're going to have to look into why that is. Were you nervous? Sometimes when we're nervous, we become something that we don't mean to be. So you know, I wasn't in the interview, so I don't know. Maybe you can pinpoint why they thought that. Um, were you overstating your credentials, and they figured it out that you were overstating them? It's always better. It's always better to tell the truth. But I'll tell you something. Let's just say you look at a job description or you put it through a word cloud and you see that you have 75% of the skills, which is fine. I think you should apply anyway. 75 is another hidden job market thing. 75 to 80% of the skills, go ahead and apply. You have no idea who your competition is going to be. For all you know, you're really high up in the pile. You'll get the job. It happens. And a lot of times people win it on personality. I've had people who applied for jobs. I've sent them over to my clients. They interview too. I know which one is technically more skilled for a job, but I feel that the other person's going to get the job because they're more dynamic, their personality, they're easier to get along with. They look like they'd be more fun to work with. Any one of those things. And people, you know, hire people either like them or whom they feel they can trust or like, you know, and would be happier working with, that they don't come across as difficult to work with. So bear all of those things in mind. Even if you're 75% qualified, you may win out over somebody who is 100% qualified and just looks like they're going to be difficult to work with. Okay. So as far as, you know, being inauthentic or what have you, try and think back to what you did or said. But one thing that I would just say is, as you read through a job description and you say, ugh, wow, I've only got about 70 or 75%, maybe 80% of what this job is. I'm going to apply anyway. But is there anything I can do about the remaining, let's just say 15%? And you look and you go, wow, I don't even know what this is. And you look it up and you see that it's software, right? Go on YouTube, look at some videos, see what that software does and is about. You may be very surprised to say, wait a minute, that's just like Excel, except now it's this other thing packaged to do, you know, some different things. But I think that I'd have a positive carryover. I don't see a problem with doing it. Maybe there's a tutorial that actually teaches you how to use it. A lot of people are putting learning, you know, videos on all kinds of platforms, but you know, you might be most familiar with YouTube. So look at those. Maybe a buddy of yours, a friend or a buddy, knows the technology. Socially distancing with masks and the 6 feet or 8 feet or what have you, have them go through it or have them walk you through it on a Zoom call. Now, here's the difference in the answer. Someone says, they call you for an interview, you're on a Zoom call, and they ask you about the one or two things, the 15% that you don't have. Here's one answer. No, I don't. Do you have skill in this area? And you say, no, I don't. I don't have that background. That's one answer. The other answer is, no, but I did notice that it was important. In fact, I saw that it was mentioned twice. So I went on YouTube and I watched 3 recent videos. And I also have a friend who's, you know, an expert at that. So I spent about an hour with her as well. And in all honesty, I don't see that it's very different than whatever software you are using. So I don't anticipate a problem. Isn't that a better answer?
I think
Right?
so. I think it definitely addresses the logical piece of it. Um, We have another question that I think follows up to what the first question was with regards to saying inauthentic. So if you do end up having a recruiter who says either over the phone or in an email that you're inauthentic or something else that seems offensive, how do you respond? How do you respond in a professional manner to address that?
Yeah.
Can you? Should you?
You know, life is a learning experience. If you can compose yourself, because your knee-jerk reaction may be just to react, because that is offensive, seriously. And look, recruiters, we're not always right either, right? So I would want to know, gosh, and ask it authentically, right? Gosh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry I'm coming across that way. If you even want to acknowledge that, or just say, could you help me to understand what about one or more of my answers came across that way? And that might give you an opportunity. It's a learning opportunity. Maybe it's already done by then, right? They already dismissed you or made this decision in their own mind. And if that's the case, I always say, maybe that wasn't your door. You weren't supposed to get that job. That was the learning opportunity that you were supposed to use for the job you're supposed to get next. So,
But in a case like, in a world right now where jobs aren't as much, and maybe you go through several cycles where somebody tells you, oh, you're just really inauthentic, at some point you got to say enough is enough to it. I mean, right?
yeah. See, this is the thing. If it's the hiring manager,
Yeah.
I would say, you dodged a bullet.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't want to work for this person, if it's
Yeah.
someone,
Likely not.
right? Or maybe even the company, if that's permissive, permitted in the company, permissible, that you are insulting people. That's certainly not building a good candidate
Yeah.
experience, and maybe indicative. It's going to manifest itself in other ways when you get the job. Because
That's
people
true.
are free for
That's
all.
true.
I actually interviewed once. It was probably, about 9 or 10 years ago, right after I decided to do this kind of work. Somebody called me in for an interview, and they kept asking me these really offensive questions, and I'm thinking, I don't want to work here. I left there. I felt like, I was like, I had ticks. It was crazy. I just said, I don't want to work for a place like this. This was a favor they did me, that they showed me who they were. If they're showing you who they are, if it's a person you're never going to see again or hardly ever going to see, different story, or maybe they were having a bad day. Still, I don't think there's any excuse for that personally.
Yeah.
And I'm from New York, okay? So
Yeah, I mean, I've had situations too where I literally almost get into like a verbal tussle with the person across the phone, and this was 6 years ago. But I remember one time where I called the recruiter back, and I'd said, I'd like to remove myself for consideration from this job. Me and this hiring manager almost fought over the phone, and I'm not interested in that. And this is like I think I was in this specific case, I think a month or a month and a half into a job search. I was young. I didn't really know what I wanted to do at that time, but I knew that's not what I wanted. So I made the call.
but if somebody does that in an interview, kind of
Yeah.
like, the honeymoon period, if there's not even a honeymoon period,
Yeah.
what are they going to do when you're working? This is indicative of how they handle stress. And in fact,
Yeah.
I had gone in an interview once, and I had heard that the person with whom I was interviewing was subject to highs and lows,
Mm-hmm.
and I just said, how am I going to cope with that? Am I going to be able to cope with that? If I'm having a sort of an off day, I might have a knee-jerk reaction and react. Okay.
Yeah.
And I asked that person, how do you handle stress? When things get crazy, what does that look like? And that person answered, and and I'm like, okay, that I can live with that. I can live with that. Other people might not be able to live with that. Maybe I'm tougher because of where I grew up. I don't know, but I went, that I can live with. Other things I can't. With people constantly grading you, and just basically beating you down and berating you. I
Yeah.
actually had somebody like that once, and that didn't last very long. You shouldn't have to put up with that. And I actually left the company because my boss was getting berated by the head of the company, and I just said, this is insanity. I don't want to work in an environment where I'm feeling completely stressed and I'm watching my boss get chewed out constantly.
Good.
So I left.
Yeah.
I didn't stay long at that company either. life is short. You know, try and be happy and realize that the universe sometimes is putting you where you should be and is telling you where you shouldn't be. You
Agreed.
know?
Agreed. So we are 4 minutes past the hour. I know
Yes,
that
I
you have a
noticed
lot of
that.
content to go through. Do you want to keep going? Do the folks who are on the line want to keep going? Either way, or let me know if you'd like to wrap it up or something. Or
I will stay.
what would you
I
like to
would
do?
stay as long as anybody who wants to stay on the phone.
Okay.
I want to help as many people as possible. So I'd like to find out from the folks on the phone. Yes, I can stay. Yes, more.
They all want to keep. They all want you to keep going. I do need to take a break from the camera here,
Okay.
so I'm going to let you keep going, and I'll be right back in a moment. But yeah, keep going. I guess. Yeah, people are
Awesome.
learning a lot, and they really like it. Great job, Marissa.
Awesome. Oh, that's so fantastic. Great. Okay. Well, we'll maybe get through some slides, and he'll have to catch up with some of the questions that come
Yep.
up.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So
And people are in fact they are in fact DVRing their sports games. So you're a hotter ticket than the Dodgers game tonight, I
oh
guess.
my goodness gracious. Wow. I feel honored. Okay. You know, I'm a truth teller, right? So you guys should know the truth, right? So here's the deal. Reach out, proactively reach out, find and proactively reach out to recruiters and hiring authorities. How do you find out who they are? I'm going to show you on a screen, hopefully if we get to that screen, how you can do a search right on LinkedIn. Some of you may have library cards, and even for those of you who do not have library cards, most libraries like carlsbadlibrary.org, san diego library.org, if you're a California resident or wherever it is that you're a resident, I'm not sure who's on this call, you can get a library number, sort of a temporary card, a number, within about 4 or 5 minutes on most library systems. You can research from the comfort of your own home. A lot of people don't know this, but you can research in the reference section of libraries, which is online. You can do e-research. It's usually under a tab called either e-research, research, or services. And if you pull out your library card, you'll notice that there's usually a number, either a barcode or some kind of a number. That's the number that you need in order to tap into the library. Sometimes if you overuse a library, so if you're on a system called Reference USA, which is a database of all companies, so you don't know where you want to work, you just moved to, let's just say San Francisco, and you don't even know what employers are around, you go on Reference USA, it's a database, it's a business application, very important. When you research, you want to click on business application, so whether it's Reference USA, the A to Z list, Hoover's, Edgar, S&P, there's so many different lists. I like Reference USA if your library has it. My library doesn't have it, so instead of, I'm in Carmel Valley, California, so I went into san diego library.org, and they have Reference USA. So just a few blocks away in San Diego, I was able to get into that library system and access Reference USA. I like it because it's easy to use. They have about a 3.5-minute video on how to use it. So it's a good way to kind of get acclimated and start using it. So why would you use this? First of all, if you're in sales, it's a great tool for salespeople even once they're in the job. But if you're new to an area or you don't know what might exist around you in your area, you go into Reference USA or the A to Z list or whatever it is, and you click on SIC codes, which are kind of like a social security number for different companies. It's a number that identifies the industry. So medical devices might be, I'm just making this up, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's their identifying number. Each company declares themselves with a standardized industrial code. So if you want to work for a medical device company, you want all 1, 2, 3, 4s. And you want all 1, 2, 3, 4s within, I'm going to make it up, once we are able to get back to work. I know definitely San Francisco, you drive further, maybe up to an hour a day in the morning and then at night. But let's just say within 30 miles from my house or 25 miles from my house. So you can put the radius. And then what do you want? What kind of information do you want from this database? Well, gosh, I'd love to know the number of employees. I'd love to know who the CEO is. I want to check up on him, see what kind of rating he gets on Glassdoor or she gets on Glassdoor. let's see, their location, their website address, you get a link so you can click on it, a telephone number, maybe an email address. About 15% of the records on these systems have email addresses. So you can figure out the convention, first name, period, last name, at whatevercompany.com. So you can write to people a little bit more easily. Another hidden job market tip right there in case you didn't catch it. Figuring out the convention, the email, I call it a convention, an email protocol or format that a company uses. Sometimes it's first initial, last name, in any event. So once you get everything you want and you clicked on, let's just say you right next to the SIC code for medical devices, 1234, you see 1235 and you go, oh, what's that? And it says dental implant medical device. And you go, oh, I don't want that. Or maybe you say, oh, gee, I didn't think about that. Yeah, I want that. Include that. Once you're happy, you click on submit. It comes up with a list. You can export that list to an Excel spreadsheet. It's technically a CSV file, a flat Excel spreadsheet that you can bring to life once you export it. Now you have a list of target companies that you can target that aren't even advertising their jobs. Maybe they have jobs. You can write them an exploratory letter. What's an exploratory letter? Pretty much the same letter as the kitchen sink letter. Here are the awesome, here's who I am and what I'm interested in. And you would say, I'm interested in let's say it's marketing, a mid-market or middle market management job or a marketing coordinator job. You don't have the exact title because there's no job. Let's say you clicked on the website, there's no marketing manager jobs, there's no marketing anything jobs. Instead, you can write to them, email, or put it in the mail, which nobody does anymore. Guess what? You'll stand out. You won't stick out. You'll stand out. Once they go back to work, once every week, a lot of these folks are going in, especially the essential workers. If they're not going in, they're not going to see your letter, obviously. So for those who aren't essential, but you write a letter and say, I'm interested. I've long been interested in your company, or you're an employer of choice. You're one of my top, employers, within the San Francisco Bay Area. Would love to have an exploratory conversation with you on how I can add value, how I can be an asset. And then you put your bullets. Here are some bullets that just indicate just some of the things that I can do for your company. And then at the bottom, I look forward to meeting with you on an exploratory basis or adding value to your company and look forward to hearing back from you. That's a hidden job market thing. That's how I got my job at NBC in New York. I worked there for almost 7 years. It's hard to get into NBC, but I put an exploratory letter out. Little did I know that they were about to post a job that was, if you saw the ad, almost identical to what my skills were. They called me in right away. They started questioning me and asking me who I knew at the New York Times, who I knew at NBC. And I'm thinking, wow, this is a crazy company. I've got to know somebody to get in here. I got to know somebody at the New York Times. Little did I know until I saw the paper when it came out that weekend. Remember newspapers back in the dinosaur era? That there was an exact job. So they thought there was a leak within the company or a leak at the New York Times, that's how I knew a job was open. I didn't know a job was open. I just sent an exploratory letter. Okay.
And I'm back here with more questions to respond to here. Saldi said, Marissa, would that be considered cold calling or cold emailing with regards to sending that letter that you did?
An exploratory letter?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, technically speaking, it's cold because there isn't a job open. Right. But who cares? They have a need. Employers are in pain.
Companies can always create new jobs too. Yeah.
Absolutely. Especially if they're smaller, they have more agility to do that. They don't have those rigid, and not to say anything about HR people, because I was one, right?
Just you watch after you say all this. Bunch of companies across California are going to get a bunch of exploratory letters tomorrow afternoon.
I hope so. That is how I got my job at NBC. Honest to God. They thought I knew somebody on the inside or knew somebody at the New York Times. So it doesn't hurt. You're expressing interest. It's what I call an ego massage. You're massaging their ego. All things being equal, I have had employers, some of my own clients, I've sent candidates, and I'll just say one candidate did not come through as she was very excited. She was a low energy kind of person. Everybody's different, but she didn't seem really excited about the job. Whereas the other guy is like, I'm hoping that I'm the person that you select. I'd love the opportunity to dig in and really show you what I can do. And he's shaking their hand at that point, right?
Mm-hmm.
They picked him. He's not as qualified as the other gal.
And so another question, is it okay to write the hiring manager or the CEO an exploratory letter? So like I would say, if you're probably applying to Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg probably won't read your letter. But if you're applying to a company of 200 people, maybe the CEO will consider it,
So the
right?
question, almost all the answers are, it depends. It depends on the
Yeah.
size of the company, depends on the personality of the CEO or
Mhm.
COO. In some
Elon Musk might read your letter if you want to work at Tesla. He might tweet about it too.
Yeah, you just don't know. And some companies, by the way, hidden job market. I don't know who's into shoes, right? Zappa, right?
Zappos. Yeah.
Zappos rather shoes. I'm thinking Zappa, which is another thing I use, a tool for recruiting. So Zappos shoes, they're going to advertise, in tweets and in text. They're not. You generally don't see an ad for Zappos on a mainstream job board. That's not a mistake. That they do that on purpose. They want state-of-the-art people. There are a couple of companies that you're only going to find their jobs, on the most hip sites or on Twitter, via tweets or what have you. Tweet my jobs or whatever, if that still exists. But that's how you're going to find jobs like that. They're looking for cutting-edge technology people. Okay.
Awesome.
So that's another hidden kind of a thing.
I think this is really great that 75 minutes in, we get the real nuggets of this whole entire webinar. You had to stay until then to get this.
Okay, target lists, you guys. Once you, I talked about that. I just put a paragraph on there. You exported something from the library. You now have a list of targets. I tell people, it's so weird. Only 3.5% of people get jobs on job boards. That's terrible. That's terrible. So where are people getting jobs? Because they're networking, right? Depending on the study that you look at, one is 66%, the other one's 88%. So let's say an average of 77% of jobs are gotten through networking. Even if you just met the person on this call, you follow up and say, hey, I noticed you on the call with Albert and Marissa. I thought I'd link in with you. Get five or 10 minutes. Would love to chat with you. And the next thing you know, you're saying your elevator pitch. They're impressed with you. You're saying your 5 top companies. They're going, wait a minute. My brother-in-law used to work for that company. Would it help? He's not in the same area. You're in finance and he was in marketing. He has an opinion, right, about what it was like to work for that company. May still have contacts there, even though he's not there anymore. And I'll go even so far to tell you this, and this is, I know it's being taped, but I don't care. I'm going to say it anyway. So I lost my job. I was laid off from Cardinal Healthcare Fusion, which is now Becton Dickinson, you guys may know. And I was already helping people by coaching and what have you. And I said, what can I do tomorrow? And I said, well, I've got a lot of candidates. I could just become a recruiter again. So I'm in my office here, and I decided to patch all of my walls, all the earthquake settling, problems in my house. And I forgot, it was one of those really hot days that we hardly ever get here in San Diego. And all of a sudden I go, oh dear God, where's that guy Patrick? Is he fainting somewhere because it's so hot in his house? So I have a few levels here. I run up and I'm apologizing to him. So here's this total stranger in my shower. And this is where I know people are going to go, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're saying this, but it's the truth. He said, what do you do? What do you do at home? And I said, well, if you asked me that yesterday, I'd have a different answer for you, but I got laid off. And he said, what did you do? And I told him I was a marketing, manager, senior manager, whatever I was at that time. And he said, is that what you want to do? And I said, well, I'm not really sure. I said, I used to be in HR. I might want to stay in HR. And he said, well, where would you want to work? And I said, just a minute. And I pull out a sheet that I used the library to populate all of the companies that I'm interested in. I use that library document, and that document is how I got my job at NBC, coincidentally enough. It's a one-sheet document that I call a target list and profile. It has an 86% success rate of getting you leads at the company or who used to work at the company. What's 86%? Virtually nothing. So some people call it a networking sheet. Some people call it a marketing plan. I call it a target list because the top third of it is my resume plus my picture. If you go on my website, you're going to see this. There are 2 downloads for it that are free. One of them is a template, so it's empty. The other one is me, a sample with me and my photo at the top, my exact resume, what it used to look like with my photo. And the bottom 2/3 are my 4 targets, the 4 target areas that other people, you need them to know, because the more specific you are about what you want, the more they can help you. So the target lists are your target companies, right? We talked about going on Reference USA or what have you, getting your companies that are within a radius around your house, or if you want to work remotely, your favorite companies that you've applied to also, your target industries, because you can't possibly list all of the companies you'd ever want to work for, right? So if you want to work for Callaway Golf, you're going to put that under the company section, but in the industry section, you're going to say golf, right? So that's the industry. Then target geography. Where do you want to work? Where in the Bay Area? Where in Orange County? Where, sometimes in San Diego. I only want to work in North County. So that's there. Remote, telecommute. I'll drive into work a few days a week. Telecommute. That's another choice. And what's the 4th choice? Titles. Different companies are going to call you different things, right? So you can be a marketing manager, a Marcom manager, a communications manager, a digital marketing manager, PR manager. There's so many different things. Now, when you give that to somebody, either physically in a socially distanced coffee, right, that you're having with somebody, and you whip that out of your, portfolio, your leatherette, and they ask you, what are you looking for? You whip that out, they're going to look at your list and they're going to say, wait a minute, I know people at these companies, or I know people in these industries, but it's not on your list of companies. Do you want me to connect? The answer is always yes, because you're no longer 6 degrees of separation away from anybody anymore, as I'm hoping you guys might have realized. Facebook did a study back in December of 2011 and said, with all of the social media, are we still 6 people away from anybody we ever want to meet? It's got to be less, right? And at that point, back in 2011, it was 4.74 internationally, 4.73, and domestically, of course, it was less. They've since redone that study twice, most recently, February of 2016, and it was 3.57. Now, some people argue about the math and how they came up with it, but regardless, you're not 6 people away from people. You might be 3 people and a little toddler away from the right job. So the more people you talk to, and don't discount, don't filter anybody, talk to them, because you don't know if somebody who's sorting mail in the mailroom, if his or her mother is in charge of HR or is the hiring manager at a particular company. So I was telling you about the guy patching up my walls, right? He said, well, where do you want to work? I run down the stairs. I run back up. I give him, here's a total stranger in my shower, looking at my 1-page profile and target list. And he said, my sister works at this company. My brother-in-law works at this company. Do you want an introduction? I'm like, yeah. So here it is. And an introduction is great because you might spend 10 minutes and you get the sense that person's not there anymore. Maybe you agree with they don't like the culture and you don't like it either based on what they're describing. That's still a good conversation. If you're like-minded and you think, if they're like me, I don't think I'd like that either. They've described some things that aren't going to fit with me. Knock it off your list. That's still a good thing that you had that conversation. But also they might be able to put you in touch with other people they used to work with, get you closer to that hiring manager. And that's your job, is to get closer. And the
Awesome.
idea when you're talking to people is to say, now that you know what I'm all about, you gave your 30-second elevator pitch, you talked to them a little bit, you're impressive, you told them about a few awesome things that you accomplished, and they're going, wow, I want a referral fee for this person. I work for this company. I'm going to carry this person's resume through. That's great if they take action and say they're going to want to do that. But let's say they leave you cold and they go, well, it's been nice talking to you. The answer is, well, if you were me, knowing what you know about me and what I'm looking for, what would you be doing next? And then they go back into themselves and they start thinking, and maybe they said, well, I'd be talking to this person or I'd be doing this. Is that something, I realize we just met with you, that you feel comfortable doing at this point? Or what would you recommend? The answer is no, you got to be respectful. But maybe the answer is yes. So that's another hidden job market thing that you can be doing.
Awesome. We have 3 new questions.
Okay, I wanted to show you the target list and profile.
Definitely.
So here is the target list. Okay, this, I put it in red. Don't ask me why this is in red. Don't ever put anything in red. It means stop, no, or don't. So maybe I just wanted you to see it. I don't know. But anyway, put your photo on it. People remember words based on.
So you recommend photos like in all industries? Because the advice I generally give to people is that unless you're going to become a model or an actor or something, that the photo generally stays off.
I'm glad that you asked that question. This is not a resume.
Oh, okay. This is not a resume.
This is the target list and profile that looks like a resume because I repurposed the top of my resume. Do you see this says
target companies and industry list and profile? Yep, right. Albert, you should learn how to read.
No, that's okay. That's okay. So you put some sweeping headlines. You're going to see my example on the website. And then you put a little summary. You put some keywords. Remember that list that I said to take inventory of things that you have skills doing, you like doing, and maybe you're good at. Here are some things that fit all 3 for me. And then I put an extra section called selected achievements, which, by the way, sometimes you get the job as a recruiter is looking down this and sees this. They already love you even before they've looked at your work history because you've put some things that resonate with their pain, right? These bullets are pain bullets or gain bullets, things that I solved problems or I made money or I saved money, that they resonate. And that's the other thing you do when you speak to people inside companies. Ask them, why did you choose it? Why do you stay? If you could change one thing, what would that be? And that might trigger, oh, that's something I could fix. I'm really good at that. You're going to put that under your achievements or in your bullets on your resume or on your LinkedIn. And then when someone sees that or in your cover letter, they're going to say, wow, we need this person. Where have they been all our lives? We've got that problem. So they already know that you can solve that problem if you have an achievement section somewhere on your LinkedIn profile, usually under your about, and certainly on your resume. The second page of it, whoops, didn't come up. Let's see if we can get it to come up now. There we go. Here are the 4 areas. Remember, target companies, target industries, target positions, target locations, right? So you'll see this document. You can download it. Please use it. 86% success rate. You're going to get leads if you use it properly. What is improperly using this is handing it to someone or emailing it once a month, which you're allowed to do and should be doing, saying, hi, everyone. As many of you, I hope everybody's staying safe with COVID, et cetera, et cetera. As many of you may know, I'm looking for my next great adventure. Positive, upbeat, not I'm looking for a job, I'm struggling, none of that. Happy, upbeat stuff. And just say, I put together a 1-page target list and profile. I'm hoping you can look at it and let me know if there's anyone at any of these companies, past or present, who still work there, used to work there, whom I can talk to for 10 minutes and get some insights, information, suggestions, recommendations, just understand the company better. I'm really doing my due diligence and I want to call my next company my home. So I'm really doing my homework first. Who's gonna judge you in a negative way for doing that? If they know you're only going to spend 10 minutes, which 10 can turn into 20, make sure you ask for permission when you get to the 10-minute mark, just as Albert did when we got to the 1-hour mark. And that's what you do. You ask that person for 10 minutes, see if you can go a little bit more if you need it, and then see if you can take the next step. Now, how not to use it. Do you know anyone at any of these companies who has a marketing director position open, who knows about a marketing director position? It's like you now went from a wide audience to just about nobody. Don't ask about a job. Ask about the company. Ask about them. Ask about their feelings about the company. right? Things that that could be fixed, that could be better, that you could be instrumental in helping. How do you see, knowing what my skills are, how do you see me fitting into a company like yours? What do you think the greatest skills that I bring to the table are? Use that in your cover letter, use it in the interview. Okay, so that's the target list and profile. This was a test, okay? Take a look at this picture, 20 seconds, maybe even 15 seconds. I'm gonna give you.
I see some very interesting figures on this.
Okay, who did you see? Now, I don't know if you let them put it in the chat box or what, but KKK, right? Okay.
Osama bin Laden, Timothy McVeigh.
Yep.
I mean, those are the people I recognized,
Now,
unfortunately.
So here's the point, you guys. You're all looking at exactly the same picture. Pretend this is the internet and you're all looking at the exact same jobs. Some of you are going to say KKK, Patty Hearst. Some of you may say, who's Patty Hearst? If you don't recognize the person, you may have known the name. You may not have ever seen the face. Some of you don't even know the name, so you wouldn't recognize that person. That is why networking is so important, because we're each looking at exactly the same thing, but we're seeing something different, right? So you need other people to network. And some people will swear that there was no KKK. And then I show them it again, they're going, oh, okay, there it is, right? And some of you will never, recognize everybody in these pictures, and that's okay. But that's why we need other people in our lives. That's why we need to network, because other people are going to focus on things that they know, things that they recognize, all right? Or things that are in color. Like your eye might have gone to the guy right in the middle. You may not know who it is, but it might have gone there, right? Here's another one. I'm going to give you 15 seconds. Count the number of F's, the letter F. How many?
I think I saw 3 of them.
Okay.
By the way, we have a lot of questions that we'll get to probably
we'll
after
go
this
to that.
section.
I see a couple of 6s. I see some 4s. Okay.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So, okay, I'm going to tell you, we all looked at exactly the same thing, didn't we? Why do some people have 3s and 4s and 6s? There are 6. Yes, there are. You've got to look at the ends of the words of.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. Yes. So again, we've got something, our eyes skip.
Somebody said 8 in the chat.
Oh, wow. God bless you. You're very optimistic. It usually ties to how open-minded you are, or it could be just where your head is. If you're distracted at the particular moment, you're not focused. But look at when you're looking at job postings. If you're not focused, you're going to miss an F, right? Meaning you're going to miss a job. Okay. So the answer is 6. And the question is, was it just a passing moment? You're just not focused, you're tired tonight, or what have you?
I write for a living, so the fact that I didn't see all of them is kind of disappointing.
Well, that's okay. You're awesome anyway.
Thank you.
I love you to death.
Thank you.
So do you need an attitude adjustment? Are you in your own way? I know from the beginning when I give sessions and somebody's negative in the beginning and, oh, that doesn't work and that never works. And I know that when we get to this exercise, they're coming up with 2 F's. I know it. I could almost set my watch by it. So get out of your own way. When you're ready to look for a job, I don't care if you do jumping jacks or what you do, get your energy level up and clear that head and get out of your own way. Okay? Because if you're carrying negativity, you're also communicating it to others. I had a guy in a session, he was doing his elevator pitch, and his elevator pitch, and even, I hate to say it, last week, there was one just like it. Nobody really needs me. Nobody knows that they need a guy like me. No matter what I do, do you think anybody on that call is going to carry his flag?
No, absolutely not.
He's, Saturday Night Live, what do they call him? Debbie
Downer. Yeah. Negative Nancy, so, Debbie Downer. Yeah.
Yeah. So he had this great opportunity, all of these people to come out of the gate charging with energy and saying, here's what I do, and I really do it well, and I've got customers, and here's, in one case, here's what I did that saved this guy's marriage, or whatever. I mean, whatever your hook is in your elevator pitch, always good to have a hook, right? Know who you are and communicate it succinctly within 30 seconds. And he lost it. He just totally, messed up. Get out of your own way is the bottom line. If you're in your own way, please recognize it and get out of your own way. And for those who believe in, Joel Osteen, he's, a preacher, if you want to find out where you're going to be in 5 years, listen to what you're saying today. Listen to how negative you are. If you're negative, tomorrow's a brand new opportunity. You start with a clean canvas. Make it a new day, right? Just like turning your computer on and off. Some people say the glass is half empty. Other ones say the glass is half full. That Mark Cuban on the Shark Tank says, I'm neither. I am pouring into the glass. In other words, I'm in control, which I think is really interesting. Okay. So
can we answer some questions
yes.
before we move a little too far?
Yes.
We have like 4 or 5 questions here, and
Wow.
so I think I'm going to try and get some of these
Okay.
out of the way, and maybe a combination question. So one question was, how might this exploratory approach, which is the asset that you were talking about a little ways back with regards to exploring different opportunities, how would they apply to somebody who's new to an industry? So I work in marketing, for example, and you have that sheet where you talk about your companies, your target. And let's say I wanted to move into, let's say I wanted to become a physicist, and I wanted to target the Lawrence National Livermore Laboratory. Now, I have neither the physics background nor the pedigree to get in, but I want to get in. And maybe even on a more realistic level, how would that apply to somebody new?
I would hope so. So I do career makeovers, and this isn't a commercial for me, but I just want to give you some tools. So remember those action words, that tool that's on my website, those verbs.
Mm-hmm.
Get that, and really take stock, do an inventory of what you've got, because chances are you've got more transferable skills than you might think you have. Okay. Mm-hmm. So step 1, take out that list, check off what you have, check off what you like doing, right? L for like, not for loser, right? And if you're good at it, or if you even have any skill at it. Now, some of this you're going to need to go to school, right? You're going to need to take some classes, right? If you're going to go for the gusto, or aim lower within that same organization. And as you're going up the ladder, you're taking courses and what have you. At least you're closer to that opportunity. Certainly you can volunteer, although a lot of people don't want to be candy stripers and be in a hospital setting these days. In a healthcare setting, you can do volunteer related things on Zoom calls and what have you, that you get closer to the job. Okay, so that's another way to get closer. Start getting exposure around people, the right people who can recommend you, who say, hey, this person is reliable, shows up on time, etc. It has nothing to do with that exploratory document or the letter. I mentioned the exploratory letter. I don't know if you had gone off screen at that point. But that take an inventory and set yourself up at the top of your resume and at the top of that sheet that is not a resume, that has your picture, right? You want to make sure people get that. Don't put your picture on your resume. And tell people in a sweeping statement across the top, like, if you want to be a marketing person, or if you're an aspiring physicist, the skills that you have that are transferable underneath that, not in a table. Remember, not in an Excel spreadsheet type of a table. Put them in columns, put little tabs at the top in the ruler, and tab over, not in a table. This way, the person you're talking to is framing you in the right way, and they're seeing you in that light, and they're saying, okay, I can see how you would be good at that job because a lot of the skills translate. And they might start giving you people to talk to that can help you, give you even more suggestions to get even closer and to align you better with that job. So that's what I would do as far as that target list and profile marketing tool. It is not a resume. I want to make sure people aren't sending that, because that could be so offensive to an employer to say, I want to work for your company, but I also want to work for one of these other 20 companies on this list. Not very, you know, that's not an ego massage. So you don't want to use that document and give it to any employer or send it to any employer. That is a marketing, it's a door opener. It's to help you talk to people who either work for those companies, used to work for those companies. It's one of the hidden job market tools. Does that answer your question?
I think it does.
Taking an
Folks will
inventory?
let me know in the chat. Yep. Let's see. So we have a couple other questions. Let's try to get through these. Is Craigslist crappy for jobs?
Try not to go on Craigslist. You know, I hate to belittle or what have you. There's so many scammers, and I'll just tell you, my niece was taken by somebody on Craigslist, and it could have ended very badly. Go on mainstream jobs boards, Indeed. Now, granted, when you put your resume on Indeed, Monster, which hardly anybody's using, sadly, Career Builder, hardly anybody's using, Glassdoor, a lot of them are owned by the same company anyway, who bought up most of them, right? But certainly LinkedIn is more reputable. Here's a hidden job market, you guys. LinkedIn groups. LinkedIn groups.
LinkedIn groups, still a thing. Okay.
LinkedIn groups. I put my ads on LinkedIn groups. Why? Because I'm cheap and it's free to put jobs, post jobs on LinkedIn groups. I told you I'm a truth teller. But in addition, I'm getting a homogeneous group of people that are likely the right candidates, or at least in the right industry or ballpark, right? So go on LinkedIn groups. Why else should you go on LinkedIn groups? A lot of people don't know this, and if you don't hear anything on this call, for those who stayed, listen to this. Most people don't know, and I'm going to show you on the screen if I can ever get to it, of you can write to up to 15 people per month on LinkedIn groups through their group for free, even if you don't pay for an account. LinkedIn does not advertise this. I'm an expert on LinkedIn. I teach LinkedIn. It's a way for you to get 15 free connections with who? Hiring managers, recruiters, just people who work there, might be your comrades, within the same department. So how do you do that? They don't make that easy either. So if you are following a recruiter, let's just say, and right at the top of LinkedIn, it shows that you're in the same group, you can write, chances are 99%, unless they opted out, which most people don't know how to do, that you can write to that recruiter through the group and say, I followed the rules. In other words, I applied online, right? I applied online through applicant tracking. However, I really wanted you to know how excited I am about this job and give you 3 bullets as to why I might be a good candidate. You can write to them through a group. Isn't that a great way to connect with a recruiter? I didn't give you that earlier when somebody asked that question. So you can write to them through the group or the hiring manager. Write to the hiring manager. So how do you do that? You click on the group. This is really important. I think I have the page that shows that. You click on the group, a new page opens with the group. In the upper right-hand side, which for you guys would be here, okay, it says see all at the top. It says it a bunch of times, but it's the first time you see all. That means see all members. You click on that, a third page opens. You type in the person's name. You start typing in Mary, and all the Marys come up. Now you type in the last name. If there's a little envelope next to Mary's name, guess what? Mary didn't know how to opt out. And you can say, hi, Mary. I noticed that we share a common group. I also wanted to let you know I'm super excited about a position that I saw. I applied online. I followed the rules, but I wanted you to know how excited I am. And here's some things. Here are 3 things that I think I should sign your name. That is that saves you, first of all, because in-mails are $15 once you run out of them. 15 times 15 is $225. Every month you're saving $225 just by joining groups and writing to people through the groups. What happens if on your LinkedIn page, when you call somebody's profile up, you don't have any groups in common? go down to the bottom of their page, look under interests, click on interests, and it opens up who are they following, what groups are they in. Click on groups, and whatever groups they're in, join. Because about 4 days later, sometimes you can write to them right away. Once you're accepted into that group, guess who you can write to? Join the groups that recruiter's in. Another hidden job market, while we're talking about recruiters, you see an ad for a recruiter for a company, that is a hiring signal. That is indicative of the fact that if they can hire a recruiter, guess how many jobs they have to fill? As soon as you see a recruiter job posted, send an exploratory letter. I don't care if there's no job posted, send an exploratory letter. If they let you do it through applicant tracking, which some companies do, they let you send just a blank one even though there's no job to put it against, also apply online or to a general email address. But if you can, also mail it, because it's like Christmas, right? For those of you who celebrate a different holiday, just pick your holiday. Nobody gets mail anymore. Granted, a lot of people aren't at work except for essential workers, but for those who are, they're going to open it, they're going to touch it, they're going to remember you more. You want to stand out, you don't want to stick out. Sending a resume with a cover letter is standing out, except if it's in chartreuse paper or some bright color, which I've been blinded by paper that people have sent because they wanted to stand out. That is sticking out. Number one rule is don't blind the recruiter. Okay? So if you're going to send something in the mail, I'll tell you, there's a company right across the street. It's called the Seismic, and there's another one called Neurocrene. I wanted to work for Neurocrene. There was a job open at some time ago. I walked across the street, and I thought I was just going to drop off my resume in a flat envelope, because if you fold it, it's sort of, it kind of devalues your resume, devalues it. So I kept it in a flat envelope, and I was going to hand it to the receptionist. There wasn't a receptionist. I walked in, there's this little hallway with just a phone. And I said, I can't get to the person I want to send it to. So I walked around the back to the loading dock, and I handed it to the guy who does the mail. He goes, no problem. Put it in the mail. So that's how I got up at bat there. You got to be a little bit more creative. You see?
Yep.
So there are other questions? I know
there are several other questions, and you know what? Even though we are an hour and 45 minutes into this, you have 31 people watching on Zoom and 10 people on Facebook watching. So you're still very popular.
Amazing. I hope you have really good tips, because
I think you have. I think this target list profile is really going to be a game changer for a lot of people watching tonight.
I hope so. And you have it's not pretty. Yeah. There are many ones that are colorful and look better than mine, but still, it got me my job at NBC, and I was there for 6 years.
And I'm sure people here would love to work for an NBC or CBS or an ABC or something, so I think it'd be great. So for those who have been asking, you will have access to this PowerPoint, and we will be also sending around a recording of this presentation. It'll probably be on YouTube somewhere, so that'll be available to you. And I've also sent your information to Marissa. She does have a spreadsheet of all your names and emails, so you will hear from her again. Don't worry, this won't be the last time you hear from her. And I'm sure if you don't want to hear from her again, you can let her know in a nicely written email as well.
Yes, I will listen to you. It's okay.
We have 2 more questions, and then I think we could definitely move forward here. And so one person asks, my company used a weird non-industry standard title for a specific job. Would that be a problem for a background check?
If the company used it?
So for example, you have like standard industry names, right? So for example, you may be a marketing manager somewhere, but for maybe one specific company, you were a, I guess, I don't know, let's say like a communications liaison, for example. And so you list your job as a marketing manager at the company where you were a communications liaison, and the background check picks that up. Are you in trouble?
Yeah, so here's what you do. And this is important also for LinkedIn. So it's good for background checks because, I was an HR person for 12 years. So what you want to do is put your real title. But in a parenthetical, meaning a parentheses right next to that title, you put your, what most people would recognize the job as, in a parentheses. Why is that important on LinkedIn? Because one of the hot spots on LinkedIn is your title. So it's a keyword. So they're not going to look at, for you under that odd title, most likely. They'll look at you like, I do engineers. So some companies call it an engineer Roman numeral 4. What does that mean? It might be a staff engineer to most other companies. So in parentheses, they're going to say staff engineer. They're going to say engineer 4, and then in parentheses, they're going to say staff engineer or senior engineer, whatever it equates to. What's good about that is you see both, visually see both, but the algorithms catch both. So you get points if it's in your hotspot area and it's one of the keywords that, say, a recruiter is looking for and has built an algorithm. They're going to see you, and when they come to your page, it's going to light up in yellow. So they won't be blinded, but it's a good thing. So they'll see where you had that experience. If you have it in your about section, in addition, it'll be in that section as well. So it'll light up once they open it, right? Because your about section, you only see the first 3 lines or so. Once they click on the more button and it opens, it lights up in that section. So hotspots are very important. And the other thing about LinkedIn that a lot of people don't realize is LinkedIn is one of the few systems, platforms that operates on the premise of keyword density. So the more times you put the keywords, especially in those hotspots, the higher you come up in the algorithms, meaning if I'm a recruiter and I have an algorithm and I type it in on LinkedIn and I get 15 pages of results, I actually don't go to bed until I go through all 15 pages. Most recruiters will only go through the first 5 pages. And if they find enough candidates, they're done. They actually get sleep that night, right? So you want to be as high up in the algorithms as you can be. Now you can have the exact same background as somebody else, exactly the same, right? But on yours, you put words, you put these words in parentheses or whatever in your hotspot areas, right? And they didn't, you're going to come up higher than they will. Similarly, another thing that people don't realize about LinkedIn, they changed the algorithms, is when you see something and talk about authentic, that you authentically are impressed with, like, enjoyed, and you click like, you come up higher in the algorithms. Like is a little lazy though. If you share or comment, you come up even higher in the algorithms. So in addition to maybe having somebody peeking at your profile saying, "Ooh, who just said this? Who just responded to my post? Who is this person?" And you get to maybe link in with them because you can start a dialogue and engage with them. In addition to that they see you, in addition, you can engage with them, but also you come up higher in the algorithms. So if you look at the number of times you appear in a search, your searches are going to go up as you start commenting and sharing more. And even more than that, let's say you see an awesome article somewhere and you're not a writer. Let's say you're not a writer. It's okay. Say, I thought this article would be of interest to my network. Copy and paste the link, boom. And certain times of the day, it's even better if you do it during the day and not at 2 in the morning, because LinkedIn has another algorithm that if it doesn't get viral within the first 2 hours, they don't help you to promote it more. They will help you to promote it more if within the first 2 hours, you get a lot of buzz. So be aware of the time of day that you're posting something and how many people, get people you know to like it initially. If you can, get them to help you. And that will get more attention. And LinkedIn, even I could show you my page right now. It'll say you had 99 people look at your, repost, Marissa. Mention somebody's name. They give you hints on how to get more people to look at your article. Kind of interesting. So why do you want to appear more in searches? Because you're going to have more recruiters looking at you. And you're more likely to have them contact you. I did promise you Boolean strings. So this is what a recruiter is typing, things like this in the yellow. So
by the way, there is one more question that I didn't mean to
ahead.
ask. I know this is some really good stuff here. Can you also answer the question of for that what is that form called again? The target list profile. Someone was asking, and I don't know if you answered this question or not, but they asked, how can this be used for networking? Where would you give or send this target list profile, since you did mention it, sending it to people?
Yes, yeah. So one of the ways, and I tell you that on one of the attachments that you'll download from my website, it tells you how to use it and how not to use it. It even tells you what to say and what not to say in that. So I give you the words. Once a month, you're emailing that out, okay? And a lot of people say, well, I don't know that many people. Yes, you do. What they did is they did a survey about 11 years ago, and they did it with funeral directors, oddly enough. And they said, how many people show up at funerals? The average is 250. So, I don't know if it's your parents or, people you went to school with, but 250 people. Start with colleagues, friends, relatives. Relatives want to see you have a job. They want to see you get off of the internet. They want to see you have a job. But start that way and send out your first monthly update. Again, airy, nice and positive, upbeat. You're looking for your next adventure. You're really excited because you want to call your next job home. You want to hang your hat there for a long time. So you're doing your due diligence. Make sure people understand this isn't just a passing exercise that you're just going through emotion. And that the people they refer you to, you're going to have a serious, substantial conversation with, meaningful conversation. But beyond that, now what happens the next month? You've already met a bunch of people and you've eliminated some companies, or you've gotten so close you don't need to advertise them on that target list and profile anymore. Remember that reference USA at the library that you exported a list of companies within X miles from your house? Go back to that list and rotate in more companies. So now here's month 2, how that sounds. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much to all of you. The wife's still great, whatever, the dog's great, what have you. Go through the personal stuff. As many of you already know who helped me last month, thanks so much for those of you who referred. So many people had some great discussions, still on the job path, but wonderful conversations with people. I have updated the list. I have modified it, adjusted it, whatever you want to call it. Could you take another look at the list and let me know if there's anyone I should be talking to for 10 minutes or so to learn more about what makes this company tick, to see if it could be a good match for who I am, my skills, and my personality. That's what you do. So hopefully that's helpful to you. So I'll go, I don't see Albert on, he might be behind the scenes, but I'll just quickly go.
Still here. Keep going. Thank you.
So Boolean strings, search strings, they're called Boolean strings. You use or words or you use and words. And here is sort of an example. You guys want to find recruiters. You don't know who's the recruiter or the talent acquisition person or the HR person or the human resources person. They're called so many different things. But let's just say you want to do that. I think I might have that on a different screen, the recruiter one. But if you want to find somebody at a company, right? Medical device, let's say you're interested in medical devices. Medical device in quotations, you're going to get only medical device return. Medical device says with an E, with an S rather, you're going to get that exact phrase. So what some people do is and it doesn't always work on LinkedIn because they got it a little bit rigged on the front end, is if you look at the, let's see, the third bullet down, and we kind of point to it, this medical device, and then there's a wild card. There's an asterisk there. That means whatever is after it. If there's nothing after it, great. But if there's an S, you don't have to type it this way, or. You don't have to do an or statement. Okay? And then or life science, which is life sciences, right? So that's an easy way that you're looking for companies that are life science or medical device. You can look at it that way. It narrows the field. Now, if you do or statements, it's either or, you should get more results using an or statement than if you use an and statement. If you said, I want something to be blue and pink and yellow, you're not going to get as many results as if you just say blue, or if you say blue or pink or yellow. But on LinkedIn, the algorithms don't work in the front. And I know it's because they want you to pay for, I'm sorry if there's somebody who works for LinkedIn on the call, but you know I'm right, because I've done this with LinkedIn people. They told me that I'm not right, and right on the call, I say, because they call me sometimes to check in and say, what do you think of this? We're going to do this or that. And I say, okay, do this with me. And we do the algorithm. They're like, yeah, you're right. There aren't as many, and there should be more choices when you do an or statement. So sometimes you just have to, if you're looking for the HR person, let me just see. Oh, and not recruiter. If you don't want to have recruiters, this is the last one, you put not, and then you put a recruiter. You don't want to have the recruiters. So maybe in your case, you do want the recruiters. But when I'm looking for people, I generally don't want recruiters. So I put not recruiter. I want the people other than recruiters so I can attract them. Let me just see if I have it here. Oh, no. Okay. So let me just go back a step. So if you're looking for a recruiter inside of a company, put recruiter and the name of the company. Put both. And then click, you know, people. Click on the word people, not group, not jobs or anything else. You're going to get all the recruiters in that company. Go back up and now put talent acquisition, more than one word, put in quotes. You're going to get people who are called talent acquisition people who have that in their title and that company. That's how you can start finding people in LinkedIn. If you want executive recruiters, some of you think you're of the level that you should have executive recruiters like me, kind of being your agent, right? You think you should call us and say, hey, I'm on the market. Maybe you have a job for me or you have one emerging. Type in executive recruiter up in the bar, and whatever your industry is or your job title is, something else. This way you come up with a list of people who are the right recruiters for you. I hope that makes sense to you. So you can find people. You don't have to rely just on the library, what I told you earlier, right? You can maybe find some of these people on LinkedIn. A lot of you do not have a call to action on your about section. Or do as I say, don't do as I do. Because I have my real phone number and my real email address. I've had it for many years. I'm on the dark web. I've already been told that. They scraped information off and I'm on the dark web. So go to Google, get a separate Gmail account just for jobs, and also get a Google Voice, a separate phone number that Google gives you for free just for jobs. And at the very last line, for those of you who are not working and in transition already, say, please contact me regarding any freelance or full-time direct hire jobs at one of the, at either this number or this email. So what happens if somebody scrapes off that phone number or that email and starts spamming you to death? You can get rid of it, go back onto Google, get another one. But if you use your real email or your real phone number, you got a problem like I do. So don't do what I did. Okay, have a call to action. That's yet another way to be accessible to recruiters. Here's another way. A recruiter lands on your page. They don't have any emails left, but they see that you have a PowerPoint presentation, and they know that generally the last slide of a PowerPoint presentation is your contact information. Now, maybe you had a blog and they look at your blog. Here's another thing you may not know. In your settings on LinkedIn, even if you're a second or a third connection with a recruiter, you can stipulate that you should show an email address under your contact button. Believe it or not. So people who are second or third to me, I can click on contact, and every once in a blue moon, somebody knows this, and I see an email address or I see a phone number, and I can call them. Another way, hidden job market. People are on your page. They're dying to talk to you. Here's another thing you shouldn't do. On LinkedIn, there's a setting where it's kind of like people who chose this also might want to buy this on the internet. You ever see those things? If you bought these eyeglasses, you might also want the carrying case. On LinkedIn, there's a setting like that. People who looked at you also may want to look at these other people on the right-hand side. Turn that off. Keep them on your page. You follow? You're making them hire somebody else. You follow me? I hope you're following me.
Yeah, definitely. I'm following you. I don't know if everyone else is, but I think they are.
Okay. So there's that, the Gmail address, the Google Voice. We talked about spammers. Yeah, make sure recruiting people. Now here's another thing people don't know. I hope I have a picture. Oh, Something came out of order there. Oh, meetup.com, hidden jobs, hidden organizations, professional groups, Eventbrite, you guys know because you applied through here. Facebook, people don't know Facebook has groups. Type in whatever you want in the main bar, find the word groups, click on groups, and join. If you're an engineer, join an engineering group. If you're a marketer, join a marketing group. What's good about Facebook groups is people are more real than they are on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, they're a little guarded. You won't get the truth. I'm part of recruiters groups. I can't even tell you some of the colorful comments. Get a load of this, what I have happened today. People just tell the truth on Facebook. So join groups on Facebook, join groups on LinkedIn. Very important. If you need help interviewing, you don't speak or articulate very well, try to go online and join a Toastmasters group. They teach you how to give speeches, to compel, to influence, to impress, to educate, and you'll get better at interviewing. Better than that, though, some of these are hosted. When they're hosted for real, they're hosted inside companies you may want to work at. Once we open up again, you'll be inside the companies you want to work for. Go early, help them set up, tell the person who you're helping to set up that you want to work there. The next thing you know, you may have your resume sent through to HR or the hiring manager. For right now, all you've got is open Toastmasters group. Click on open. Who allows you to go in and check them out first? You'll meet people. Maybe they're people at the companies you want to work for. Then link in with them. Say, hey, I joined today's Toastmasters group. I was really impressed with whatever it is that you're impressed with. And now I'd love an introduction. I'd love to chat with you and learn more about the company. What makes it tick? Why did you choose it? Why do you stay? You know, what, if you could change one thing, what would you be changing? Find out the pain points. Volunteering, you can volunteer online. Once we get back to normal, hopefully. Oh yeah, it was out of order. Kickstart. Oh, okay, just the Q&A.
Before you move into your next bit of LinkedIn, we have actually 2 LinkedIn questions.
Okay.
One is, would you recommend we sign up for LinkedIn Recruiter so that we can see what they see? And is it possible to search for headhunters on LinkedIn in a similar fashion to searching for recruiters?
Yes to the second question, which is then put headhunters. But most of us don't call ourselves headhunters. Okay?
Headhunter is such a 90s term, I feel like.
It is, but the thing is, I really do, and I've been accused of being, you know, a stalker. So I really do find the right people. I found 2 fathers 2 years ago. People called me up and I said, that's really not what I do. But I found 2 fathers, one of them within 90 seconds. I just happened to be on the right site. And he was looking for 7 years. The other one for 27 years. We got an ancestry.com test within 2.5 weeks. But yes, you can find headhunters, but I would look under recruiters or executive search. Recruiters, executive recruiters, or executive search. That's what we're called. I don't care if you call me a headhunter. That's what I do. You know, I find people. So I find the right person. And what's the other question?
Is it possible to, you were asking, is it possible to search for headhunters? I think the other one was, would you recommend that we as job seekers sign up for LinkedIn Recruiter so that we see what they see?
First of all, you probably won't be accepted. I don't know. They may take your money. It's green, but I don't think LinkedIn would let you.
Yeah.
But
it's a pretty expensive tool too, to my knowledge.
It's unbelievably expensive. It's ridiculous. So I'm not doing it anymore. I've got other ways to find people. But no, you don't need to do that in order to know what recruiters see. I mean, look, you could replay this. You could actually go through the slides and read, because there's a lot of content on some of these that are going to give you even more tips. But no, recruiters, you know, they're looking for keywords. And you know, here's a tip. Here's one right here. You don't need to. They're not going to tell you this on their group, on their page. A recruiter's never going to tell you this. You know, so there are some words that trigger recruiters who really know how to mine information on LinkedIn, of which I am one. Right. So the word looking, hiring, and seeking are like the 3 top ones. Okay. Open to is sort of this new one with the green circle that you get around your face, right? But So look at what I did here. I've got sales, somebody in sales, right? They're looking for a job, but let's say they're still working and they don't want to trigger and to let their employer know I'm looking for a job, right? But they figure out a clever way of saying the word looking or seeking, like I'm always looking for new people in my network or looking for ways to improve my fill in the blank. I'm always seeking. Now that's a recruiter who's on the ball will know there's a good chance that person's looking for a job, right? So I'll call you or I'll write to you, right? Especially if you give me some ways to call you or write to you, right? Or I'll write to you through a group or your website or blog or what have you, right? But I'll think that that's code for you're looking for a job, especially if you have contact information in your about section. Then I'm almost certain that you're looking for a job and you're trying to tip me off to that. But it doesn't tip off your boss. You see, that's the difference. Now, the thing is, when you put sales, let's say you're a salesperson and you put in parentheses, and again, remember, you might have to put these words separately because LinkedIn on the front side, these ors cause you to get fewer results, not more. So if you just put sales and hiring or sales and seeking, sales and looking, right? You're going to get results and you click on people. This is a people search. So Erica is saying we're hiring. Now, she happens to be a director of talent sales, right? So she's in HR anyway. So that makes sense. She's saying we're hiring some people. You may find jobs that are hidden because that company didn't advertise this. They didn't have the money. They didn't have the budget. Somebody, whoever does the internet isn't on the job because they're at home with COVID, God forbid. So this is what Erica is doing to get you to see that she's hiring. It's even in her headline. The hotspot, the most important area of LinkedIn, the headline. Now, Jami is looking for a dynamic, strong leader, right? So there's another job right there. Now, she may not be in HR, but she is. I can see she's got a PHR. She's got a couple of SHRM. She's got a couple of designations. Sometimes people who get referral fees, they can get a referral fee, like any of you. You can put right on your LinkedIn, our company is hiring. And people might come to your website, you talk to them for a few minutes, you're impressed, and you get credit if they get hired. It's a nice way to make some money. Donna Yates is also a recruiter. But here's the thing, these people, this is what I'm doing to find people, but you can do this to find jobs because sometimes the jobs are listed on people's profiles. That's the point here, that you might find jobs. Hidden job marks, right?
Still going.
Here's the human, I didn't know I put this. So again, the or doesn't always work on LinkedIn. Put it on most other sites, it works beautifully. But HR or human resources or recruiter, bless you, or talent acquisition. And what company do you want to find the HR person? What company? Callaway Golf, right? Microsoft, what company? And then you're going to find everybody who's an HR person. Look, because it's another people search, people, right? Click on people, don't click on company, click on people. You're going to get Sheila, you're going to get Nancy, you're going to all these people who have some version of HR, human resources, talent acquisition in their profile. And that's how you write. It's always better to address a letter with the person's name. It's flattering, if you can. If you have to put head of HR or head of engineering, so be it, if you can't figure it out. Other questions? No?
I don't see any other questions. Keep going.
Lincoln with Lions, LinkedIn Open Networkers, Lions, LinkedIn Open Networkers. That's what that stands for. People who have over 500 people in there, they'll take anybody. But bear in mind, some of these people, not that I have an issue with Amway or multi-level marketers, but some of them are authors. They're going to put you on a mail list. Opt out, but keep them on LinkedIn. And they usually will connect you to people if you ask nicely, even if they don't know you, because they're lions. That's part of their, their MO, their persona is to link people. They're even joining lion groups that are called L period, I period, O period, N period, S period, right? Or N period, I guess with N's, and then one without the periods in between. There are lion groups on LinkedIn, people who have over 500 that might be valuable, even if you don't know any of them. They might be useful to introduce you to somebody at some point. And I did a comparison between October of 2016 with some of these groups, and lion groups only went from 409 to 555. I was surprised. So much time passed. Not a whole lot of, more lions or people declaring themselves as lions. And here's another way. Anybody who has a gold in, a LinkedIn badge like this, means that they pay. Okay, they're paying for premium. And you can try and connect with them, but you might get put in LinkedIn jail if you don't know Greg Johnson, right? If you do too many connects, you can get your account sanctioned. If you write to too many people that you don't know, I don't know if you guys know that. The number used to be 5. I don't know what it is now. But if you instead CNN and send a message, or if you don't see the word message, go under the more button, and sometimes it's hidden under there, and send Greg a message saying you noticed that he worked at a company, you'd love to chat with him for 10 minutes, pick his brain, whatever, and try and offer something back. Like, my network is growing and I'd be happy to introduce you to anybody in my network now or in the future. When you give somebody something or a promise in the future, they're more likely to connect with you and give you what you want, right? But anybody who's a premium member has a setting up in the settings bar that they can turn on or off. And when you click on message, you're going to know, because you're either going to get an empty box that allows you to type a message to Greg, or a free message, because Greg is an open networker. He clicked on I am an open networker, right? On his settings. You click on message, it'll say free, and you can write to him. If suddenly you get pricing, Greg turned off his open networking. You can't write to him. Maybe tomorrow he'll be back to being an open networker, but for right now he's turned it off. Why is that important? Because you can write to a recruiter or a hiring manager who has a gold badge, who has their open networking setting on. Another way to write to people for free on LinkedIn. No limits. No limits. Not 15 a month like that. You join a group, I told you earlier. No limits. Anybody who has a gold, they might declare themselves as an open networker. And just because they're not an open networker today doesn't mean tomorrow they don't change their setting. So try again. Free message. Here's what you see. See it circled? That's what you see. Put a subject line and type away. Poor guy doesn't even know I'm using his profile. And look, he's a second connection, right? Remember I told you under the contact information, up in your settings, you can put your phone number. That's not visible, just the word contact information. But when I click on that, it opens up, and maybe your phone number is in there. I can contact you through your phone number or through your email. Here's the groups. Remember I said you can contact people through groups? If you're already in groups that they're in, it shows up right here. And click on one of those groups. You get another page. Click on that see all. You get a third page. Type the person's name. If an envelope shows up, boom, you can write to them. See all. Oh, here it is. This is what you see. So whatever group this was, the digital marketing group, see all. Click on see all. Type Greg Johnson's name. There he is. Well, actually, he was too far down. That Greg Johnson was too far down. But this is what you'll see. Message, message, message. As soon as you see that, you can click on it. Type a message. That's what you get. LinkedIn, you're not going to see this. Open to work. I told you about that. This is where you can declare up to 5 jobs. I did this for you. I only have recruiters looking at this. I certainly don't want to be called by the world for a screen that I really am just doing to show you. And look at what's on this side, guys. Some of you don't know that you could be making money right now on LinkedIn's freelance community called ProFinder. I helped to launch that in November of 2016. If you're a marketer, if you're a web builder, if you're a graphic designer, if you're a career coach, if you're a life coach, I mean, there's so many things you could do to say, I can do that for somebody for a project and make some money. They're going to want, after, you have to be a paying member after you answer 5 requests. That's how LinkedIn makes their money. They give you 5 times that you can accept an invitation. As soon as you hit number 6, they want you to pay for a premium account. But then you've got to weigh, am I going to get enough business that I should be paying for a premium account on this part-time freelance work? So you can become a pro finder. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. You can become, I don't know, somehow it's just doing that. But, 5 titles, I was telling you, I told you earlier, 5 titles, 5 geographies, you know, under the left side. Okay, and then just, I think I'm pretty much close to the end here. You'll be happy to know. Let recruiters know you're open to opportunities. This is in your settings across the top navigation. It has a little picture of yourself. If you have a picture, little down arrow, you click on settings and privacy, and suddenly you get all of these settings that probably you have set wrong, which is why you're not getting recruiters looking at your pages. But this one, you let recruiters know that you're open to opportunities. Let's see. Okay, so this is old. Actually, this isn't changed, and it should be changed. They now took this away, and they have another one that says, let recruiters know by doing a job alert. As soon as you set up a job alert, they know that you're open to opportunities for their company, and they get sent 3:30 every morning, West Coast time. They get sent, if you add a new keyword to your profile on LinkedIn, they get sent your profile 3:30 in the morning. If you're on the East Coast of North America, it's at 6:30 in the morning. So don't underestimate keywords, because as soon as you add a keyword to your profile, if it's one that you didn't have, that a recruiter is looking for, who is paying all this money for their recruiter account, they get pinged with your name, and they know that you're looking. Another hidden job market tip. Oh, here's the new one. I didn't think I put the new one in. It says you have to create job alerts. So the old one said, just let us know you're open to a job. The new one says, set up a job alert for every company you're interested in, and we will make sure that that employer gets pinged with your name. And why did they do that? Because now right on your profile, 2 slides before or slide before, you can declare yourself as a job seeker. You don't need LinkedIn pinging anybody at 3:30 in the morning. You are showing them that you're a job seeker. Edit your public URL. If you guys know your address on LinkedIn starts out as like Marissa Marsala, GHIJK123. It's got a bunch of arbitrary numbers after it. Edit your profile, erase those numbers, and see if anybody else took your name. If so, if you're a CPA, put CPA after it, Marissa Marsala CPA. This way, when somebody looks for you, they get the right Greg Johnson, who's a CPA. They don't get distracted with a different Greg Johnson. Or put your middle initial in between your name or some other designation. But you can adjust your profile, which makes it easier to remember, and type into the search bars on calls like this, right? You don't have to put JKLMNOP, right? Right after your name. So definitely edit your profile. It's right under, you click on me, you click on, view your profile, and here's what comes up. Viewing your profile, edit profile, adjust your name, submit. It's either going to tell you yes or no. It'll give you suggestions. If somebody else has the name that you want, and you get to pick and clean it up, make it easier to put on your resume, which, by the way, put it on your resume, your LinkedIn address. You don't need to put your street address. It's dangerous for some women, especially. There are stalkers out there who are looking for resumes with street addresses, so you can put your city and state. It's a little bit safer for women, and maybe some men too. Okay. And here's ProFinder, right? If you click on the waffle on the extreme right of the search bar, here it is. This here, underneath here, It either says freelance community or it says pro finder. You click on that and you get to declare what you are. Hang on, let me just find it. There it is. So are you a coach, or can you offer temporary financial, can you clean up somebody's books? Are you accountant, or can you do legal work? Are you a wellness coach? Are you a physical fitness coach? And LinkedIn will look at your profile. They will determine if you're telling the truth or not about what you're offering their community, and they will let you in. If they deny you, you can appeal. And usually they deny you at least once, so try again. Just make sure your profile says what you say you want to do, right? This way they're more likely to approve you the first time. That's it. Questions? Anybody still on?
Yeah, you've got 16 people on Facebook and 24 people on Zoom. You got 40 people here.
That's astounding.
And,
I've never had a call this long, guys.
Yeah, and Cheyenne says this has been the most helpful LinkedIn deep dive I've ever seen.
Good.
Yeah.
I hope you can put some of these ideas to use. Any questions in particular that
we have another question here. Let's see. This is, I know you and others have said it's said to get a Gmail account for jobs. Honestly, I'm not a fan of Gmail's format. I have another free account and it ends with @email.com. Is that okay? Everyone is saying Yahoo and others make you look old. If I make a new one with @email.com, is that all right?
Yeah, it's fine. That's fine. And I still use Yahoo ones. Actually, I wouldn't put that on a resume. I think they're right. Gmail is the one to put on your resume,
Yeah.
or something like, something unique. I even went to GoDaddy and I got marissaMarsala.com. So, who's going to want that one, right? So, so I have my own domain for my email. So I'm marissa@marissaMarsala.com, among other emails. So yeah, that's fine. Yahoo I still think is okay, but yeah, it's starting to get a little dated. Gmail is absolutely fine. You can show your age doing that. You can show your age by putting, unless you just graduated within the last few years, putting your college graduation date. I don't recommend that if you graduated more than like 4 or 5 years ago. Take that off. Don't let people figure out how old you are. Don't let that be a reason why they do or don't, hire you. What else can I say? What other questions? Any other questions that are on?
So just to follow up with that, so an @email.com on resume would be bad, or would that be okay?
Well, I think as long as it's a normal email that they can reach you at, we don't really care, as long as we can reach you.
Yeah.
Some of us are biasing, which is bad.
Yeah.
We look at your email address and we go, they might be this age, either too young or too old. And that's another thing on your resumes, guys. You look at the job description and it's saying it's looking for 7 to 10 years of experience. And let's just say you have 20, okay? 20 years of experience. What I do, or what I used to do, or what I recommend to my coaching clients, is that they figure out how to break that up. So as a marketing person, I might have had 7 years of PR, maybe 15 years of advertising, how many years of marketing communications, website design. They're all different. Well, I start putting those, it starts looking like I'm about 85 years old, because you can add those all up, but obviously they're overlapping. I wouldn't be putting years at all. So for instance, I've got 30 some odd years of background in the world, in corporate America and otherwise. If somebody's looking for 7 to 10 years, which by the way is now illegal, really. A lot of companies are still doing it, but you're not supposed to be saying, this is what we want, 7 to 10 years. You're supposed to be putting 7 to 10 plus, a plus symbol or the word plus or more, because it's discriminatory, right? It's discriminatory. We're basically saying we only want generally young people, which is not fair.
Never.
And we're not going to hire somebody over 50 or 40. 40 is considered now mature. Anybody over 40 is considered mature. So hopefully that helps. Any email is fine. Stay away from
even AOL@AOL.com is okay.
Oh, stay away from that one. Stay away from that one. USA or whatever. I don't know.
Or how about Outlook.com?
Yeah, people are still using Outlook. That's okay.
Yeah.
It's just not as hip as Gmail. Come on, that's the most hip one, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So,
supposedly.
right?
Another person asks, I am 64 years old. Should I hide my age?
Where is it? Where are you showing it?
I have no idea.
Uh,
Where would
like,
you show your
is
age?
is it a photo?
Maybe, I guess, if you put it on your like LinkedIn and it says you graduated
Yeah.
um,
Don't put
2020 minus 46 years ago, or like I just don't put it, right? Don't put it.
no, don't put your year of graduation. Some
Yeah.
government, they'll ask you, they'll send you a separate, application and ask you
Hmm.
questions that they shouldn't, to me, they shouldn't be asking. But yeah, don't put your age. What some people do, if they've got a little snow on the roof, is they put a slightly, they dye their hair, they put a slightly younger picture, if they're really worried about age bias. What I would suggest, um, show some other things that make you relevant. You've kept up with, I'm not saying Instagram, but you're obviously on LinkedIn, right? I'm hoping you're on LinkedIn. Show that you're relevant. In your about section, show some new technologies. Show it in your achievements, that you use this new technology to do X, Y, and Z. That's going to make you come across as more relevant. If a recruiter looks you up and does what they call an X-ray, okay, which I won't explain, but if they look you up on other media, social media, then they're going to see pictures of you, probably from Facebook that you've got posted.
Yep.
They're not going to know for sure if it's you. We can figure it out though. But just make sure they show youthfulness. You at a barbecue or tossing a frisbee. I mean, you don't have to be snowboarding, okay? But something that shows that you're vital, that you're ready to work. But more important than the pictures, because most of us don't do that kind of stuff, start showing how relevant you are to the job. It's when you were in school, and you wanted an A, and your teacher said, in order to get an A for tomorrow, composition, first you need to introduce your topic, tell me what you're going to tell me, then tell me, and then at the end, tell me what you told me. And that's an A. Whether you agree with it or not, that's what you do to get an A, right? So the same thing when you're applying for a job. Look at that job, run it through one of those word, visualization, those word clouds, or get what I do when somebody gives me a new job. So I'm going to be interviewing you guys, and you're applying for, I don't know, whatever job it is, operations manager job. And let's just say I never recruited for that job or not for that company. So I get my highlighters out, or I go on LinkedIn, on the internet, and I get different colors and I highlight your education, your did you ever do a presentation? Is that important, that you need to be able to present information? Research skills, whatever it is, I'll highlight, and maybe in different colors. So your education might be in one color, and your
And
delivery.
while we're actually talking about the age piece, year of graduation should probably not go on anything then, right?
Right, unless you just graduated or graduated within the last 4 years or took a class. Let's just say you just recently took a class and you haven't gone to school for eons, right? Let's say you got your PMP, your project management professional designation. You want people to know that? Yeah, definitely put the year. That will help you, right? Put the year next to that. Now that might look funny. That's the only thing that has a year. But what some people do instead is instead of putting their education on the bottom of page 2, let's just say of their resume, if you have more than 10 years of service, you might have or more than 5 years of service, you might have a 2-page resume. They suddenly reposition their education and they put it front and center at the top, because it demonstrates either a renewed interest in that field or that you're keeping up in that field, and they want people to see it. Also, certain industries expect to see the education at the top. So for instance, life sciences, it's not unusual that people with CVs, which are curriculum vitae or vitae, pretty much everything you ever did since you graduated from high school, right? It's 12 pages, some of them are really long, but that's expected for some industries, and they put their education front and center. Attorneys do that also. They put their education straight at the top. Many, not all, but many. So some industries, you can look at other people's resumes, you're going to see that it's okay. But if you didn't graduate recently or take a new class and it's not, you know, a norm for your industry, it belongs on the bottom of page 2 without dates.
And
Anything
then
else?
I guess, what about for software executives? And how does a post-baccalaureate look to a recruiter?
Looks good. I mean, you know, especially if you're showing a renewed commitment or a recent commitment or an ongoing commitment to your craft or your industry. I mean, that can only benefit, right, an employer, right? And by the way, guys, somebody asked this question earlier. I know I'm kind of going a little off tangent here, but I just remembered something. You know, let's just say you have a different industry, like that Neurocrine job right across the street, right? I never worked for, you know, a company that deals in neuro. That would be new to me. But I feel, and you should as well, they got enough scientists running around there. They don't need another scientist brain. They need fresh air, fresh perspectives. And that's what I'm selling. Somebody who sees things a little bit differently and can offer a different value. So if you're looking to switch careers, switch industries, upgrade your job, you're a breath of fresh air. You're going to see things that other people who are kind of stale and have been in that have seen or heard from their peers, and they may not bring the same value you can bring. So bear that in mind, that you've got some leverage that other people who may be in that industry don't have. But as far as the baccalaureate, that's great. I think that's fine. Some positions require, I do a lot of life sciences, require PhDs, MDs, you know, there's not much you can do about that if that's really what they believe is a requirement. But believe it or not, as a recruiter, sometimes I can change the paradigm in my clients' minds. If it's beyond, if it's them, I can change it. But if it's their company and that's the MO of their company, that they really value that and they have to see that, I'm not going to have my hiring manager get in trouble, you know, because I'm influencing them to take that off, right? Sometimes after 3 weeks of looking for someone, usually it doesn't take me that long to find people, but let's just say it's a really hard search, especially with this, you know, when COVID was going on, people were staying off the radar and keeping their head down. Sometimes all of a sudden, things that originally appeared in that job description are gone. So these employers are beginning to concede on their crazy requirements. So just because the job is there and you go, I already saw that and I'm not qualified, read it again in 3 weeks. See if they refresh your screen. Make sure it's not the old version in your cache, because you might have a new version and suddenly 3 or 4 things are missing. Now you're 75% qualified for the job. Hopefully that makes sense.
And then we have one final question, which is, and no need to write the total years of experience either. And
Total
I guess
years.
Elena was, and then another person says, where should I show this fresh breath that you just mentioned?
Your cover letter,
Yeah.
if you get an opportunity on, you know, on an email cover letter or a normal cover letter, which by the way, guys, what I do or used to do when I was applying for jobs, we're going to look at the resume first anyway. So put it in a document, the one that you're uploading that's getting applicant tracked and screened and parsed, the ugly one or the uglier one, let's just say, right, that doesn't have all the boxes and fancy things on it. Underneath it, put the cover letter. Why? Sometimes people will print out that whole document and they'll see that you have a cover letter. If you're in a marketing job, a writing job, copywriting job, they'll be able to see that you can write. It adds a degree of polish. I mentioned earlier that some recruiters are clueless. They don't even know what the job is. They're going to take your stuff and they're going to give it to the hiring manager, which gives you a better shot, chance at bat, especially if you did that kitchen sink cover letter, where you, along one side on the left side, put all of the keywords and then answered the call right next to it and said, here's how I meet your requirements. You're going to get up at bat much more often if you use that format. Trust me on that. I only had one employer that I actually applied for a job, she listed 28 things. This is the job I quit, by the way, that I was there for 2 weeks. She listed 28 things that she wanted a person to do. And I'm laughing because I'm thinking, oh yeah, I've got a 3-page, kitchen sink letter. I can just print that out. And sure enough, I did. I sent it over. 20 minutes later, I was being invited in for an interview the next day. So, you don't usually do a 3-page cover letter, but, just bear in mind that kitchen sink should give you everything you need after you apply to maybe 5, 6, 7 jobs. There aren't too many surprises if you're going after the same job of new things to add. So make your work light by creating a kitchen sink cover letter. And don't put that at the bottom of your resume. Clean that up, delete what's not needed, put it at the bottom as a 3rd page of your document. And the other reason is if you have an applicant tracking system that is scanning and counting, scoring your resume, let's just say you forgot to put a word that's in your cover letter in your resume. It's not the best thing to do. You should always try and do that because the cover letter often gets separated from the resume. And if you have a committee of people, they're only getting your resume in most cases. But let's just say you forgot a word. The applicant tracking system scans it. And let's say you needed 10 words and you only had 9 in your resume. Now it scans your cover letter. You make it in because of that 10th word.
Cool. Let's see, one more question. I was advised not to include that I ran a diversity and inclusion dinner. How does this look to a recruiter when I omit this?
Holy mackerel. Really? Wow. That is like, the word for 2020 is pivot, right?
It really is.
Had a pivot. So, if I had to pick 2 other words, diversity and inclusion, guess what? If somebody doesn't hire you, I mean, you shouldn't leave it out. But if somebody, if you put it in and they don't hire you because of that, run. Don't walk. I would say don't walk. There are so many organizations. What I would suggest for you is look up the organization. It's like Good to Work. I'm trying to remember the name of it. Michael Bushman.
The person in this question was working as an associate director at a college of medicine at a higher institution of learning. And it was one of their main events for underrepresented students. And they say that they omitted that on their resume despite saving a lot of money and being able to celebrate their students. And that was one of their most fulfilling parts of their job.
Amen. I would say that's crazy. Find another employer. That is not your door. That is not your door. The universe is telling you that's not where you're supposed to be, I would say. And if you put it on and somebody doesn't hire you because of that, I would also say not your door, run, don't walk.
Yeah,
run.
Exactly. Let's see, another person was asking, and I think we'll go for another 3 minutes here because I need to eat dinner and I'm sure everyone else needs to get on with their evening. Ria, this person asks, I'm a nonprofit community organizations leader and volunteer. Is that a good thing to add to my resume or not?
Oh, how nice. I mean, anything community, is
People
great.
want to know what you do in the community out here. And so absolutely, I would say.
Yeah, I would say, that would be great, especially if you can relate it to the job. Like I worked for a community bank, so anything I did in the community was really acknowledged. I also worked in HR, so HR people are supposed to be community minded and all that good stuff. So, but I would just say you're civic minded, community minded. Why not? Now you could get into a little bit of problem if it's community and if it's politics, especially if you get somebody really, who hangs on to their value system and can't see past their biases on a resume and won't pick you because of that. And I would again say if there's somebody you'd be working with regularly, consider yourself blessed that you learned that and run. Apply somewhere else.
Yeah. So I would say before we conclude here, Marissa, how can people who are watching tonight get in touch with you? You mentioned a couple of times tonight that you were a coach. I didn't want to leave that behind before we concluded after
Oh,
an
yeah.
hour and 45 minutes.
Oh, Mamma Mia. Wow. Sorry. My Italian's coming out. Sorry, guys. So I don't do a whole lot of coaching anymore because I'm doing so much on a pro bono basis. So there's a couple of, first of all, you've got your group, which is amazing, amazing. They should be going on your group and learning as much and listening and tapping into.
And also, what are you hiring for as well? Just so people can get to that too.
Okay. So
since you are a recruiter.
Yes, I'm a recruiter. So I do all jobs, all levels, all states within the continental United States. And this last week, I actually did a one in Europe, a job in Europe. I usually don't deal with anything other than the US. So my jobs, I've been trying to post on my LinkedIn page. If you follow me, click on follow Marissa. You should get a bell, and every time the bell, I post something, you should get a bell that says Marissa posted something along with other people you're following. And you'll see that every week I've been posting all over the country jobs that I have that are in the dairy belts, that are in the, all different areas of the country, and the jobs that I am working on that I'm allowed to broadcast. Some things are confidential. So if you're looking for a job, and let's just say it's a C-level job, maybe somebody isn't working out in a job, obviously I'm not going to put that all over the internet. So you may want to write to me, send me a LinkedIn. Everybody should be, I hope, linking in with me. I don't do one-on-ones because I'm already spending 30 hours a week doing calls like this. So I've got to make a living at some point. So I don't answer individual questions. So I would ask that you respect that. But you can join my LinkedIn group, which is the same name as my company. Let me see if I have it here. Oh, that's a different set of resources. I was going to share that with you guys, which is Employer and Candidate Connection. Employer and Candidate Connection LinkedIn group. You can ask any question you want, and either I or one of the other coaches in the group is going to eventually, because it's free help, we may not do it immediately, answer your question. I know it's hard when you have something very private, like I was just offered a job and I was lowballed. What do I do? You can say that. There are recruiters in the group. There are coaches, and sometimes they'll even answer you, even from other states. They'll answer you, right? New Jersey. A lot of people weigh in from New Jersey. We always have something to say, right? East Coasters, right? You might have to wait a couple of days. There's another group you can join. I'm in it, and I'm pretty active in it for the last, 11 years, 10, 11 years. It's NC3. N, Nancy, C, Charlie, 3, the numeral 3, career transitions. It's in San Diego, but of course now it's on Zoom. You can join that when Albert isn't doing something cool on Monday nights that you're interested in. You can join it on Monday nights from 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific. We always have new topics. We rotate, so if it's not LinkedIn, it's resumes. I think I'm doing resumes this coming Monday. How to supercharge your resume. And then every week, because I can't keep doing 30 hours a week, it's not sustainable, individual one-on-ones. What I'm doing is I'm doing 90-minute sessions every week, usually on Thursdays. Anybody can join, anybody. You got to register for the event, for the LinkedIn event, or the Zoom event, excuse me. It's on LinkedIn under my activity. So if you're following my activity, it says, group coaching call and networking call, and you got to have an elevator pitch. Even if.
And can you actually say that again? NC3 is. I'm actually linking everybody to all of these different resources in the chat.
NC3, which is it stands for North Coast Calvary Chapel. It's not even my church, but they let me speak there, and anybody who lets me speak, especially to help job seekers.
Here's the meetup group for everybody. And are they allowing, I'm guessing they're doing everything virtually right now, right?
We're doing everything virtually.
So if you're in the Bay Area and you want to hang out with San Diegans, this is your chance to not have to go to San Diego.
Well, yeah. And the other thing is we post jobs through the group. So for the meetup group, but we also have a Facebook group. And in that Facebook group, you can ask any questions you want. Same group, NC3 Career Transitions. You can ask any question, and there are 7 of us who are active. Most of us are working, and we'll answer your question. So, and we expect you also to help other people. It's a pay it forward group. So if you can help somebody's looking for a lead at Microsoft, somebody, offer offline or online to, to help them with that lead. So it's a pay it forward group, NC3 Career Transitions, on Facebook as well as on Meetup. And then my once a week call for 90 minutes, which is a pay it forward call where everybody's doing their elevator pitches, usually on Thursday, sometimes on Friday. Look for my link under my activity in LinkedIn. Also look for the jobs that I'm recruiting for, again, on LinkedIn. There's a PDF right now you can look at, and you can see all the jobs that I'm allowed to post that are listed there.
Awesome. Yeah, and and if you're looking at the chat, particularly for those of you who are on Zoom right now, I have linked to the NC3 group. I have linked to the Employer Connection group on LinkedIn, as well as Marissa's LinkedIn profile and her company page for Employer and Candidate Connection.
And do they know how to save the chat with the 3 dots that I'm about to click on and save the chat?
Ah, I did not know that you could do that. Yes, so if you go up to the chat area and you click the 3 dots and you see Save Chat, you can go ahead and save the chat there and go from there. And
you can check the folder where you can keep saving it the whole meeting. But
yep.
You see, when you do that, you can check what folder it's going to put it in.
Yep, definitely.
Okay.
So if there's nothing else to add, Marissa, I want to thank you again for joining us, especially for 2 hours this evening, and especially for those of you who are watching on Facebook and all of those who have been here on Zoom tonight. We're going on 3 hours here, and we appreciate you investing 3 hours of your very valuable time this evening to learn more about how to find this hidden job market that exists out there. And so with all the different assets and resources that Marissa has sent you, we definitely wish you all the good luck when it comes to your job hunt.
Yeah, don't
if you enjoy,
my website as well, by the way, the free tools, definitely.
We did share the website earlier, and folks did get to see that, and they on their own linked to your to some of the resources that you were sharing on screen here.
Oh, awesome.
So yeah, everyone's really good. Yeah.
Time well spent. I hope you guys put these you only may need 1 or 2 of these to get a job to land.
Definitely. Yep. And I've spoken to Marissa several times as when I've been unemployed, and she definitely puts your rear into gear. So definitely put yourself out there with her in her groups, using her resources. And if you enjoyed this event, we actually have a lot more events coming up that you can also RSVP for before you leave tonight. Next Monday, we're doing another mock interview with Corey, who you see here on Monday nights. This time it's around accounting and finance. Whether you work in this field or not, it's a great chance to acquire some tips and tricks for your own interview process. And so you can join that event and then join Marissa for her event on NC3 afterwards. On Tuesday, we'll have a virtual panel with recruiters from companies like Google and Rakuten, where they'll be talking about best practices and hiring trends for their area of the market. This is a moderated conversation and will include Q&A. Next Wednesday, a week from tomorrow, if you're considering an escape to grad school during these crazy times, you'll want to join us as Executive Career Coach Deep Sani joins us to help find clarity. You'll learn what you need to get into graduate school and whether it's the right path for you. Finally, we're going to end next week by going over the September 2020 jobs report with Professor Riley White at the University of New Mexico. In this webinar, we'll be digging deep into the unemployment numbers, what they mean to you, and how things will look going forward. As a bonus, we'll also be previewing the U.S. presidential election and what to expect from President Trump or Democratic nominee Joe Biden in their economic plans and what your job market will look like when either of them will get elected. Finally, everything you need is in our community. In the week ahead, we look forward to your success stories, job postings, and advice to help drive your success. We'll see you all soon, and thank you again for showing up this evening.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care.
Awesome. And I just went off live on Facebook. If anyone has any additional questions they want to ask, you can stay here. Otherwise, I think we can go ahead and wrap it up. I don't see any additional questions, so I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye, I think.
Okay.
All right. See you all later.
Take good care, everyone. Stay safe. Bye now.
Bye.